would look into those with challenges in terms of paying back or because of maybe they received the product late. Basically, we advise those clients of ours to come to the commission. If they've got a problem, they report the problem so that we can look at it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kantanshi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Honourable Minister, for the responses you have given us. All of us in here, Honourable Minister, we're coming from communities where there are marketeers. And obviously this program is very, very important to us. I've heard your challenges, which I believe should have been your starting point before even rolling out this booster program, which I must say in Kantanshi, we have not benefited at all. Now, considering the challenges that you have highlighted of members of staff, transportation, don't you think these will hinder the best outcome of this program, which is supposed to change the businesses of our marketeers, who we depend on? And I want to end there, because you know what they do when that time comes. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise Development.
Madam Speaker's government, we've started giving capacity to the commission, and I think early this year they managed to procure some motor vehicles for them to, have a smooth running of, such programs. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Chama South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Honourable Minister. We are grateful for your responses. Nevertheless, Madam Speaker, Chama South, I know, like many other rural constituencies, are not aware of these booster loans. You can imagine, Madam Speaker, if such booster loans reach our women in Chama South, in Kalabo, in Mwandi, and many other areas. Therefore, I want to find out, Honourable Minister, when are you taking such good services to even the remotest parts of Kalabo, so that women and youths in such areas should see and appreciate the difference that such programs under the New Dawn government are making in their lives? I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise Development.
Madam Speaker, this program is an ongoing program, and the Honourable Minister from Chama South. The Chama South is part of Eastern Province, and we have 3,233 beneficiaries. I will try and dissect it to see how many have benefited from Chama, but I know that Chama have benefited. It's an ongoing program, Madam Speaker, and we will be able to sensitize, the districts more. And also I would appeal to especially the Member of Parliament who has asked the question, that you need to work as a team so that as you go into your constituencies, you also is able to carry this message for our marketeers. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kabwata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm grateful. Honourable Minister, I'm happy that you have actually mentioned that one of the qualifications for one to get the market booster loans is the Green National Registration Card, signifying that our government is actually wanting to see that equality is what is being preached. Because in the markets, we have got different people that belong to either the Patriotic Front, the others belong to UPND, others belong to FTD. What a plus. And I hope and trust that this can be also extended even when it comes to employment. My substantive question is, I wanted to find out whether this program has got a time frame on when exactly it will end. Is it possible if you can give us a time frame?
The Honorable Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I say this is an ongoing program. We want to continue, giving empowerment to the marketeers. As long as, the New Dawn government, UPND government continues, we will continue to empower the marketeers. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kabwe Central.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving people of Kabwe to ask a follow-up question. Minister, thank you so much for your answers. And I'm happy to inform you that at least in Kabwe, we have a number of marketeers who benefited. Of course, we have also a number of them that have applied and have not yet benefited, and I'm happy that the recovery rate is about 65%. And I want to find out, when are we going to see second round rollout to give those that have applied and yet they have not received? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise Development.
Madam Speaker, I said it's an ongoing program. We are still working the market leadership to continue giving this product. When the Member of Parliament said Kabwe Central benefited, I'm happy to hear that, but we'll continue to give out. The only thing also is that it's when we have enough funds, we also give those who have not benefited. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Magoye.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. I just want to find out from the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, this market booster loans is really helping a lot of people, including our people in Magoye constituents, and it has helped them to make a bit of some money. But at the end of the day, just the same as the question asked by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Karabo, looking at the climatic change, the hunger situation in the country, the load shedding, most of the people might not manage to pay back. Are you considering to reschedule the period or to completely write it off? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise Development.
Madam Speaker, this is a loan and there are conditions to the loan, and that's why we said in my response, I said these funds are insured. But you see, I also said when a client, is facing challenges in running the business, they should come to the Commission and we will have a chat. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kala. Okay, thank you. Honorable Member for Mpika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, usually forms for the market booster loans are distributed by political party cadres. And in some cases, they also collect money from applicants. What measures are you putting in place to ensure that that work, which is government work?
The Honorable Member from Mpika, there is a point of order from the Honorable Member for Kalabo Central. What's the point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Order 71, relevance. Madam Speaker, I generated this question myself without his guidance. I did not consult as to what should be this question all about. Emanating from Kalabo, where he has never been. Madam Speaker, is the Honorable Member from Mpika in order to mismatch these places?
that Karabo is like Mpika, where they did provide those application forms by party cadres. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member from Pika, please restrict yourself to asking supplementary questions, which will touch on what the Honorable Minister has said. So just ask supplementary questions. From what I heard from the Honorable Minister, I did not hear him referring to application forms being distributed to by party cadres and them asking for something in return. So to that extent, the Honorable Member from Pika is out of order. Honorable Member from Pika, please ask a supplementary question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the question on the order paper is not restricted to Kalabo. It's countrywide. Maybe the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kalabo is...
Honorable Member, please, I've already made a ruling. Restrict yourself to a supplementary question.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, I thought maybe he was trying to joke the cousinship and I could also join. Madam Speaker, my question to the Honorable Minister of Small and Medium Enterprises is, what measures have you put in place to do monitoring and evaluation of the impact that the said fund is making on our marketeers? Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise Development.
(16 districts), and they work with the citizen economic for now of our to encourage them, to give them capacity, and to provide any information required for us to succeed. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. We need to make progress. The last question, the Honorable Member for Kasama.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. Honorable Minister, I wanted to find out, of the total allocation of 158 million, only 8 million was allocated to the Northern Province, which means that certain provinces received more than others. What was the criteria used for fund allocation for each province? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I went through, and Northern Province, as the Honorable Member has said, in fact, it's among the top. There was no allocation of any monies per province. We were following the applications. So how many applications we received from either Northwestern, Northern Province, and we did the processing. It was not about allocating funds to each and every province. I thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, maybe I need to just clear one thing. When the Honorable Member from Pika says cadres have been, distributing all.
Oh, the Honorable Minister already made a ruling. Let's not open that issue. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next question, the Honorable Member for Chilubi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I continue missing the Petauke voice, question 392.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Member for Chilubi, Honorable Mulenga Fuve, is asking my ministry the following questions. Why the construction of hospitals in the following wards in Chilubi parliamentary constituency has stalled? That's A, that's 1, Chava, Katamba, and 2, Muchinshi Mposha. Question B, when the works will resume. Question C, when the project will be completed. And question D, what the cost of the outstanding works on each project is. Madam Speaker, we answer as follows. To question A, the construction of hospital phase 1 and phase 2 in Chava Katamba ward, and the construction of hospital phase 1 in Muchinshi Mpasha ward in Chilobi parliamentary constituency were completed in January 2019. The remaining phases, that is phase 3 in Chava Katamba ward, and the phases 2 and 3 in Muchinshi Mpasha ward will commence once funds are secured. C, the completion time for the remaining phases will be known once the procurement of the contractor for the works is done. On each project will be known once the works are quantified and costed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Madam Speaker, the Minister is projecting that the construction will continue, and phase 2 and 3 for the Muchinshi Hospital, which is a bit behind compared to the other one, the construction will continue. But the Minister says that the expenditure or the cost will be known when the works start. And I thought that those 2 hospitals, I know that they have been passage of time at the cost. And when they are at the cost, maybe the Minister would have been helpful to give the cost out of what was there, what was budgeted, and then what they are projecting, including inflation that has occurred. That is what the people of Chilobi expected, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
What's the supplementary question? Just ask the supplementary question. Specific, be specific.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, my supplementary question is still on the costs. Since those 2 hospitals were costed already, what I expected from the Minister is to say, taking into consideration inflation and that, the projected costs for the remaining works for the 2 is this much. So I'm still asking, what is the cost for the works that are remaining? I don't think that the Minister has attended to that part.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Here's how we do things in the New Dawn government. I think there are 2 sets of costs that the Honorable Member of Parliament might be interested in. There's first of all the initial cost of the contract, which we are ready to give. However, because so many years have lapsed since these works were suspended, it's inappropriate to talk about the projected cost, because if we are going to go to contract, we want potential contractors to give us their costs, which we shall be able to evaluate. If I stand on the floor of this House and give what I think the cost will be, that would jeopardize the process of contracting this work out. So from that perspective, the Honorable Member, who I know is very clever, he was DC in that area, understands. So let me give him some costs that were there before. For the hospital project at Chava Katamba ward, the phase 1 comprised construction of outpatient department and administration block and associated external works. Phase 1 works were completed, and the hospital, as he knows, is offering medical services. Now for phase 2, This included construction of theater, service block, 4 medium-cost houses, incinerator, maternity ward, mortuary, and associated external works. As I said, these were completed. The contractor, as he probably knows, is called the Mango Tree Construction Limited. And the contract sum for those works was 22,578 kwacha, 941 kwacha, 22,578,941 kwacha 8 ngwe. This contract was signed by our predecessors on 29th December 2014. As I've said, that one is 100% complete. Now for phase 3 of that particular contract, which comprises construction of 6 number of low-cost houses, wards, that's for children ward, adult male ward and female ward, and associated external works. Phase 3 has not yet commenced and will only commence when resources. And I cannot give you the cost for the reasons I explained earlier. Now, with respect to the hospital project at Muchinshi Mpasha Ward, phase 1, comprising the construction of the outpatients department, administration block, and associated external works. Phase 1 works were complete, and the hospital is offering medical services. Now, the name of contractor for this phase 1 was again Mango Tree Construction Limited. And the contract sum for that one was 24,746,329 kwacha 14 ngwe. Again, to show you all these projects were, this was signed on the 5th May 2015. That phase 1 is 100% complete. For phase 2 and 3, these will comprise construction of theater, service block, 4 medium-cost houses, maternity ward, incinerator, mortuary, 6 low-cost houses, wards for children, adult males, and the adult females, separate wards, not combining them, and associated external works. These phases have not yet commenced, and as I said, they will commence once we have resources, and the cost will be known when we are carrying out that process. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Chirubi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Since the universal health coverage demands that different departments are available in a hospital like it may be, the minister seemed to be doubting when these resources will be available. I don't know whether, since we are going for September, in September we'll start the budget process, are you likely to take on board the 2 hospitals? Because the services are hampered. The 2 hospitals are operational, but services have been affected because in certain areas like the mortuary, the theater are not working because of the same construction. Are you likely to take on board the 2 hospitals in the 2025 budget?
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm not in a mood to even engage in politics, but just to remind my honorable friend that these contracts, one of them was signed in 2014, the other one was signed in 2015. We shall endeavor to have this completed, but the process of budgeting, which is what he's asking about, is a process that first of all starts with consultations, and that's why we always want people, especially those who are interested, like himself as a member of parliament, to engage with the relevant ministries during the budgeting process so that the prioritization of their projects can be taken into account. Once that process is complete at ministerial level and it has gone through cabinet, the budget will be brought here, where he will have ample opportunity to debate and ask for adjustments if those are not included. So as MP, it's part of his responsibilities to what we call appropriate. So I hope he'll participate in that. So I cannot say what will be in the budget until it has been passed by this House. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much. Let's make progress. Notes of motion. The Honorable Member for Sesheke.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism on the International Convention on the Protection and Use of the Transboundary Watercourse and International Lakes for the third session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on 19th July 2024.
Is the motion seconded?
The motion is seconded, Madam Speaker.
Order. Seconded by the Honorable Member for Pemba. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism on the International Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Waters, Courses and International Lakes for the third session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on Friday, 19th July 2024. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Sesheke.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with its terms of reference, as set out under Standing Orders 209D and 210F of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2024, the committee considered the International Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Watercourses and International Lakes. Madam Speaker, after considering the UN Water Convention, the committee has made some observations and recommendations which are documented in the report. I'm aware that members of this august House have had time to read the report. Therefore, allow me to highlight only some of the committee's observations and recommendations. Madam Speaker, the committee observes that the devastating effects of the El Nino drought, which has been characterized by reduced rainfall activities caused by unfavorable weather conditions that have impacted negatively on crop yields and crippled Zambia's power generation capacity. The committee further notes that while Zambia's water use for electricity generation is not consumptive, certain clauses of the UN Water Convention may seek to limit Zambia's ability to use water within its boundaries as it pleases. While this is done within the context of the preservation of shared watercourses, the committee expresses concerns that it has got potential to limit Zambia's autonomy on water use. In light of the above, the committee strongly urges the government to fully study the implications of the convention in the context of power generation, agriculture, and other water-dependent activities to ensure that they do not inhibit Zambia's ability to effectively utilize its water resources. The committee further recommends that the government seek clarity on potential upstream water use restrictions before acceding to the convention. Madam Speaker, I wish to inform this august House that Namibia is the only SADC member state that has acceded to the UN Water Convention. It is also noteworthy that other African countries that have acceded to the convention, like Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, Ghana, Togo, and Cameroon, have coastlines along the ocean. It is for this reason that the committee recommends that the government carry out further consultative engagements through regional bodies like SADC or the African Union to gain any clearer appreciation of why riparian states have so far not acceded to the convention. The committee further recommends that the government fully interrogate any potential geopolitical considerations causing other SADC countries not to accede to the convention before deciding on whether to accede to the convention. Madam Speaker, as members of this August House may be aware, Zambia actively participates in international efforts to manage water resources responsibly through conventions and agreements such as the SADC Revised Protocol on Shared Water Courses, the Zambezi Water Courses Commission, the Zambezi River Authority, and International Commission of Congo Ubangu Sanga, to which Zambia is an observer member. The committee, therefore, recommends that the government works towards enhancing the enforcement of existing agreements and conventions before acceding to new ones. Specifically, in such situations where existing conventions and agreements have overarching mandates, particularly, the committee recommends that the government work on fully enforcing the SADC Revised Protocol on Shared Water Courses of 2002 before acceding to the UN Water Convention. Madam Speaker, allow me to conclude by stating that the committee is of the considered view that while the UN Water Convention would offer several benefits as highlighted in the report, there is need for the government to fully appreciate the implications of Zambia's potentially acceding to it, as certain clauses of the convention may restrict Zambia's ability to fully utilize its water resources. Such considerations are even more crucial given the impact of El Nino on rainfall and power generation. The committee therefore recommends that the government carries out a comprehensive study on the convention's implications to ensure that it does not hinder Zambia's water use, autonomy, or power generation expansion. Additionally, noting that only Namibia among SADC states has acceded to the convention, the committee urges the government to consult further with regional bodies like SADC and the African Union to understand why other riparian states have not acceded. In view of the foregoing, the committee contends that there is no immediate need to accede to the UN Water Convention and recommends that the government delay accession to this convention until the concerns that have been raised are fully addressed. In conclusion, I wish to pay tribute to the committees, to the witnesses who interacted with the committee for the valuable insights that they provided. Gratitude also goes to you, Madam Speaker, and the Clerk of the National Assembly for the guidance and support rendered to the committee throughout its deliberations. Madam Speaker, the only African countries that have so far acceded to this are only those with coastlines, which Zambia is not. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Pemba.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to second the motion ably moved by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Sesheke. Madam Speaker, the committee observed that some treaties to which Zambia was part have lapsed due to non-payment of membership fees. The committee further observed that continued non-payment of fees and dues has weakened Zambia's position in these agreements. In this regard, Madam Speaker, the committee urges the government to urgently take stock of current agreements and conventions before acceding to any new ones. The committee further recommends that the convention be delayed acceding to the UN water conventions until it is in a position to fulfill all financial obligations of the convention. Madam Speaker, the committee observed that Article 9 of the UN Water Convention provides that, and I quote, the riparian parties shall, on the basis of equity and reciprocity, enter into bilateral and multilateral agreements or other agreements where these do not yet exist or adapt existing ones. The committee expresses concern, however, that this provision is stringent to relations to existing agreements by obliging riparian parties to adopt existing bilateral or multilateral agreements. As a result, Zambia would be obliged to enter into agreements or adopt existing ones, which may result in duplication or other legal complications. Considering that Zambia already has other existing agreements with the riparian states, Madam Speaker, I wish to bring to your attention that the riparian states of the following lakes, Lake Kimwelu, Lake Tanganyika, Zambia, Burundi, DRC, and Tanzania. Unfortunately, none of these states have signed or acceded to the convention. Lake Kariba, we have Zambia and Zimbabwe. None of the two so far have acceded to the convention. Lake Kimwelu, Zambia and DRC, none of the two have acceded to the convention. Finally, my example, Madam Speaker, is on Zambezi River water courses. The riparian states are Zambia, Angola, Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. And only Namibia have acceded to the convention. Madam Speaker, in this regard, the committee recommends that the government fully start the convention to establish implications on the existing convention and the agreement before acceding to it. Madam Speaker, I submit and I beg to move. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Chiruvi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Maybe the starting point would be that the Water Convention, if you look at much of its articles, is calling for being or exercising the duty of care to your neighbor. But I think, Madam Speaker, as the report has rightly stated, we are having an ecological question before us, and we need to be ecologically intelligent in looking at sharing the transboundary water sources. Madam Speaker, the major water sources that we may have is the Zambezi Basin as well as the Congo Basin. And given that scenario, Madam Speaker, other shared sources would be tributaries from mainly the Zambezi and the Congo Basin. Madam Speaker, I have in mind of implementing the UN Water Convention in a shared water source, like Mwelwa Mchanga, not Mwelwa Ntipa, there are two Mwelwas there. The Mwelwa Mchanga, which goes to Nchelenge, which is also shared with Congo. You find that implementation of the UN Convention on Water becomes difficult in that particular lake. Madam Speaker, I further want to talk about Tanganyika, which among other countries that benefit from it includes Burundi, which looks far-flung from Lake Tanganyika. I want to pick simple examples like fish ban. You find the usability of such lakes when we have fish ban this other side of the country. The others are still fishing and depleting the resources in the Caribbean. Madam Speaker, when we want to talk about the implementation of this UN Water Convention, usability should be on the center. Usability in terms of hydro energy, transportation, and also food from the same resources. Given that background, Madam Speaker, I think it will be equally not utilizing the ecological intelligence if we venture into acceding to such a convention without venturing into proper research. There is need, Madam Speaker, that we do proper research, as we all know that among the challenges of climate change, we have melting ocean ice and many other factors coming. The levels of ocean water is also, dropping, meaning that some of those basins that I mentioned, especially the major ones, the Congo Basin, as well as the Zambezi Basin, also feeds in these oceans. And this is not just about Zambia and its neighbors. It's a global problem. Madam Speaker, in this parliament, we have talked about issues to do with ecological, and now we are supposed to be conservative. We seem to struggle right now with a man-made lake, Kariba, with Zimbabwe, the way we share the water rights there, the way we benefit from that particular resource. And we cannot risk to go on and sign some water convention that ties our hands behind when we need to utilize the same water. And I think we do not need even to waste time. Currently, Zambia is benefiting its electricity, even the one we are enjoying here in Parliament, is hydropower. And we are struggling with hydropower currently. And with the shared bodies, especially the Congo and the Zambezi Basin, including their tributaries, that's why we are getting some power and water for use for different things, including domestic use. And this is not a question which we can go on with the hands, tied. Madam Speaker, let me also venture into the difficulties that we may find in terms of fulfilling the article, what the article is speaking to. Madam Speaker, I have in mind which legal framework will really fit into demarcating, coming up with formal demarcation of these boundaries so that we qualify to see this is where Congo ends and this is where Burundi ends and where Burundi should use and the like. Madam Speaker, another difficulty that we may find is that there is no uniformity in terms of water resources, the acts, the environmental acts in these countries and the land acts in these countries. There's no uniformity. So, transporting a water convention from the UN and thinking that at our level we can really implement it will be shooting in the dark. Because formal demarcation is already a problem because the legal framework may not match. We need to buy into what Congo, uses and not to take anything away from our neighbors. They may not be as formal as we may be in terms of land act, environmental act and many other acts that buy into the utilization of these resources. So, Madam Speaker, given that scenario, I think even when we want to do and uphold the duty of care to our neighbors, especially through the UN Water Convention and what it stipulates, it will disadvantage Zambia, especially that currently we are dealing with the issues of ecological attention, where we know, for instance, that the water bodies we are talking about are also the only fresh waters that are there. We know that oceans have been polluted by ocean plastic, by plastics and many other factors. So we need to be careful, Madam Speaker, and I think I submit that the recommendations that the committee have forwarded should be taken seriously by this House, and we should not rush into acceding to this convention, water convention, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Wengwa.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for allowing me to debate about the same issue of our UN Water Convention initiative. Madam Speaker, I think the chairperson of NH has already highlighted the dangers of acceding to this convention, no UN convention, that it may not help us, no, it may not help this country. You know, the countries, I think you've already heard that the countries which have already are already acceded to this UN convention, water convention, are those, okay, who are surrounded by the oceans. I think for us here who are landlocked, I think it would be very dangerous to do so. And there are so many disadvantages, Madam, which I can highlight so that maybe the government, we can at least try to slow down so that we don't sign this UN Water Convention. You know, Madam, there can be a loss of sovereignty. Zambia may have, okay, to adhere to international water management standards and regulations, which is not good for our country. Otherwise, everything, all the foreign plans, initiatives will just come here and land into this country, disadvantaging our local people. And there can be even high implementation costs, okay, if we happen to accede to this UN convention. Even technologies and practices can become extremely very expensive. And dependence on foreign expertise, Zambia may rely heavily on external technical assistance when it comes to implementation of UN Convention Center. Then, Madam Speaker, on social impact, water convention projects can displace communities or affect their livelihoods, which is not very good at all. And the foreign nationals, Madam, they can exploit our water bodies here in this country if we if we go ahead to sign this convention. Then, Madam Speaker, also, there will be a potential also to exploitation of everything which our farmers, our local communities, villagers, all the waters which they are using, Madam, there can be a lot of restrictions. So what I can simply ask, especially the government of this, the UPND government, the government of this, the Zambian people, I can only ask them that let us hold on a bit and let us assemble a team of expertise, a team of technocrats, people of integrity, those who can not just be bought by these foreigners when they just come, because they know that we people, especially the Zambian people, we've got a fresh water. And some of these countries which don't have a water like the waters which we have in Zambezi River, they don't have a fresh water, so they want to take advantage. And we must work extra hard that we are not duped, Madam Speaker, and let us work extra hard not to assent to this UN Water Convention. I think, Madam Speaker, I only have these few ways to share with the Zambian people in the government that time is not yet ripe for us to sign this UN Water Convention. Madam Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kanchibia.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to add our voice to this very important report. And in adding our voice to this very important report, our geographical positioning, Madam Speaker, allows us to reflect extensively before we can undertake any major decision such as acceding to this to the UN Convention on Water. Madam Speaker, out of the 15 countries in the SADC region, only one country has reportedly acceded to this convention, Namibia. And we know that Namibia has access to the ocean. What this tells us is that it's a no-brainer that other countries have taken into consideration their interests before they can seek to appease international organizations and appear to be making headlines. Madam Speaker, I seek to be very specific in brief that as a country we desire for agriculture, sustainable agriculture mechanization. And part of this goes to exploit our irrigation potential as a country. Some of the decisions and some of the conventions we accede to are injurious to the interests of our nation in the long term. For example, there are some decisions that would take on the excitement of what the climate change advent has brought upon us. But you realize that even with what has been given to us as the figures around the green economy, there's very little, if any, accruing to the poor and the poorest of our communities and of our people. In the same vein, Madam Speaker, we wish to submit...
Order, honorable members. What's happening? Honorable members, can you go back to your seats, please? May the honorable member for Kanchibia continue.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we're saying that as a country we desire for all year-round agriculture in order for us to meet our aspirations in unlocking the agriculture sector. One other sector, Madam Speaker, which is very critical and close to this particular convention under discussion today is the aquaculture industry. This industry, Madam Speaker, holds a lot of potential in terms of driving our economy and allowing us to realize the objectives set in the Vision 2030 for ourselves. We know that when we look at the agriculture sector, we look at the aquaculture industry, it's not yet Uhuru. There's a lot that we have to do. And so closing ourselves up and restricting ourselves by acceding to this particular convention will not be the right thing for us to do. The power generation potential, Madam Speaker, we are seated with an energy deficit as we speak. And it is not going to be prudent that we go ahead and append our signature to this particular convention. As far as we know, Madam Speaker, this particular convention is not a one-size-fits-all model. And so, for things that do not suit and meet our needs as a country, for things that seem to disadvantage our interests as a country, let us gather our courage and just park them. Because some of them are not even worth exhorting and exerting our energies as a people. Madam Speaker, we have the propensity sometimes to make certain decisions without the interrogation, but I want to thank the committee and the report that they've recommended for a cautious approach. And as a people of Kanchibia, we seek to support the recommendations as has been given by the committee. Madam Speaker, those few words allow us to support and say that this particular convention should not see our signature as Zambia. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The honorable member for Shuangandu will be the last debater.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to make a few comments on the report from the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism on the International Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Water Courses and International Lakes. Madam Speaker, I think my colleagues have already indicated their support, which I'm joining. We have water bodies that are shared between the Republic of Zambia and indeed other countries. The usage of the water in those water bodies varies from one country to another. We've got international lakes that are shared. And so there are already, as alluded to by the report, some bilateral agreements between Zambia and the neighboring countries that we share water bodies with, depending on the policies and common frameworks with these countries. So to domesticate, to accede to this protocol, which would just be a diplomatic stunt to a larger extent, must first of all take into account all the various bilateral agreements that we have with the neighboring countries. Zambezi, for example, is another water body shared, and the usage there has even gone further because we've got an authority such as the Zambezi Water Authority, whose responsibility it is to ensure that the water from Zambezi is prudently used. And so, to start going to this protocol, which has got clauses, as alluded by the report, which might restrict the use of water further, could be counterproductive, Madam Speaker. If in the conclusion of the report, the committee has recommended that in view of what the UN Water Convention seeks to achieve, they've shared with us that yes, despite the several benefits as highlighted in the report, there is a need for the government to fully appreciate the implications of Zambia potentially acceding to the UN Water Convention. Certain clauses of the convention may restrict Zambia's ability to fully utilize its water resources, which is crucial given the impact of El Nino on the rainfall and generation of power. Very critical, Madam Speaker. And this brings me to one very interesting idea, which was espoused by the former long-serving chairman of the committee, where he was proposing the initiative of building a canal from Ruapura River to channel it into Kafue River and eventually into Zambezi River, so that power generation could be sustained. How can we realize that important undertaking? And I hope these in government, these in cabinet are sharing those ideas, because the long-serving chairperson of the Energy Committee, who brought this idea to this August House, is in cabinet now. And we are hoping that now they can start channeling some funds to implement that idea of building a canal from Ruapura province via Congo into the Copper Belt, so that these water levels that we are experiencing in Kariba Dam can be a thing of the past. I can see the Honorable Minister of New Energy Minister is taking keen interest as we are receiving handover notes from your counterpart there. So, Madam Speaker, this convention, given those reasons, is not one we can accede to and domesticate. Because like I've said, we have got bilateral agreements with the neighboring states that we share the water bodies with. And therefore, we support the committee's recommendation to encourage government to do more work in understanding the clauses that are contained in this UN protocol on water. We're different from those that we have heard have appended their signatures. Most of them are coastline countries, and so we, being a landlocked country, have got different dynamics. And the challenges we are facing now due to the negative climate changes require a unique approach by our colleagues in government. Because if they don't, it will be difficult to even fulfill some of those plans, the ambitious plans they have, such as the one of building a canal from Ruapura River into Kafue via Congo, into Zambezi, going near to Zimbabwe. It's your own ideas. You should consult each other. This came from your colleague in cabinet.
Honorable members, Honorable Member for Shwangandu, you are debating. You are not talking to your fellow honorable members.
They are engaging me, especially the ones who have swapped ministries, trying to settle down.
Just concentrate on your debate, Honorable Member.
So, Madam Speaker, we support your report, your committee, and the recommendations not to domesticate this UN protocol.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Acting Minister of Water Development.
To your committee's report. The chairperson for moving this motion and also the seconder, but also let me thank the members of parliament who debated the report, and these include Honorable Fuve, Honorable Sande Chanda, Honorable Kampyongo. Madam Speaker, a number of issues have been raised in the report, and among them is that the committee observes the devastating effect of El Nino, characterized by reduced rainfall, impacting crop yields and crippling Zambia's power generation capacity. Whilst Zambia's water use for electricity generation is not consumptive, certain clauses of the United Water Convention may seek to limit Zambia's ability to use water within its boundaries. Madam Speaker, our response is that there is no clause in the UN Water Convention that would impede Zambia from utilizing its water sources. To the contrary, what the UN Convention seeks to promote is the effective utilization of water sources, as well as helping the country to have more knowledge on the transboundary use, on the use of transboundary waters or shared water courses. The committee, Madam Speaker, further recommends that we seek clarity on potential upstream water use restriction before acceding to the convention. Like I've said, we did a lot of benchmarking before we arrived at this decision, consulting countries that they themselves have been on this journey. And I want to confirm, Madam Speaker, again, contrary to the assertions that many countries have not acceded to the UN Water Convention, and that only those that have acceded to the Water Convention are those that are on the water coast. Madam Speaker.
Sorry, Honorable Minister, there is an indication for a point of order. Honorable Member for Shwangandu, what's the point of order?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise on a very serious point of order pursuant to Standing Order 71. Here, Madam Speaker, we have got your report from your committee. And this report, Madam Speaker, is what we all depend on, those of us who are not part of the Committee on Energy. And for avoidance of doubt, Madam Speaker, I'll quote the conclusion of your report. Madam Speaker, the conclusion of your report states, and I quote, "The committee is of the considered view that while the UN Convention would offer several benefits as highlighted in the report, there is need for the government to fully appreciate the implications of Zambia potentially acceding to the UN Water Convention. certain clauses of the convention may restrict Zambia's ability to fully utilize its water resources, which is crucial given the impact of El Nino on waterfall, on rainfall and power generation. This is your report, Madam Speaker. Is the Honorable Acting Minister of Water, where you used to be, in order to stand on the floor and say there are insinuations that there are clauses that are pointing to the restriction of usage of water, when the report is here, and his duty should have been to respond procedurally to this report with a written script? What are we turning this institution into, Madam Speaker? This is not the way we procedurally deal with your reports. These are your reports, Madam Speaker. And when they come on the floor, before they come on the floor of the House, they are sent to the ministers to study them and render responses in reaction to your report. Is the Honorable Minister in order to take that trajectory in response to this report? I seek your serious guidance.
Thank you very much. I was looking at the list of witnesses, and among the several witnesses that appeared before the committee, the Minister of Water Development and Sanitation was one of the witnesses. So I don't know what the Ministry of Water Development was saying. In accordance with the report, they should have allayed, at the committee stage, allayed the fears by the members of the committee or the concerns of the members of the committee for them to have arrived at this particular decision. So the Honorable Minister, please respond to the issues that have been raised on the floor of the House, so that we don't appear to be reopening the issues of what was discussed at the committee stage. May the Honorable Minister continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for your guidance. Unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity to respond. I feel that the point was not speaking to what I was responding to. I think I'm actually responding to what has been presented to the House. But thank you for your guidance, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Water Courses and International Lakes serves as a mechanism to strengthen national measures and international cooperation for the ecologically sound management and protection of transboundary surface waters and ground waters. The Convention is an important tool, Madam Speaker, to put into operation the achievement of the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development and its Sustainable Development Goals, particularly with regard to water and transboundary water cooperation. The Water Convention facilitates the achievement of SDG number 6 on clean water and sanitation through its integrated and sectoral approach and its attention to the prevention and reduction of water pollution, the conservation and restoration of ecosystems and water use efficiency. Moreover, Madam Speaker, the work under the Water Convention is relevant to other SDGs such as SDG number 2 on zero hunger and SDG number 15, life on land. SDG number 3 on good health and well-being, as well as SDG number 16, 17, respectively, on peace, justice, and strong institutions, and partnership for the goals. Through conventions, activities on integrated water resources management and partnership for transboundary water cooperation. Madam Speaker, the Water Convention supports sustainable and efficient utilization of water resources and does not limit the country's potential water use. Instead, it helps countries accelerate the sustainable and efficient utilization of water resources for socio-economic development and human well-being. Further, the government of the Republic of Zambia is certain that ascending to the UN Water Convention will not impose any restrictions on the country's utilization of upstream water resources. The principle of preventing significant harm under the Convention limits the adverse effects of water utilization emanating from upstream measures to downstream and vice versa. The Water Convention, Madam Speaker, champions the equitable and reasonable utilization of water resources for both upstream and downstream concerns, encouraging benefit sharing without imposing restrictions. Further, the government of the Republic of Zambia is very certain that ascending to the UN Water Convention will not impose any restrictions on the country's utilization of upstream water resources. This is because the principle of prevention of significant harm under the Convention limits the adverse effects of water utilization emanating from the upstream to downstream. Madam Speaker, another issue was on the reluctance of SADC nations to accede to the Convention. The committee noted that only Namibia among SADC states have acceded to the UN Water Convention. Other African countries have acceded to the Convention, and these are Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, Ghana, Togo, Cameroon. And it was said that these are because they are on the coastlines. Madam Speaker, our clarity is that under the UN system, there are two global conventions related to water, the 1992 Water Convention and the 1997 Water Courses Convention. The 1997 Water Courses Convention closely, Madam Speaker, mirrors the 2000 SADC revised protocol on shared water courses, which explains the perceived reluctance by SADC member states to accede to the convention. The reluctance is directed towards the 1997 Water Courses Convention, not necessarily to the 1992 Water Convention. Madam Speaker, the accession to the United Nations Water Convention was only extended to all UN member states in 2016, and awareness creation about the convention only began in the year 2022. Consequently, most countries, including those in the SADC region, have recently started expressing interest in ascending to the UN Water Convention. For example, Namibia acceded in 2023, and Zimbabwe as of last week acceded to the convention. Other countries, including Zambia, Botswana, Malawi, and Tanzania, commenced the accession process between 2022 and 2023. Madam Speaker, let me say further that it is important to understand that governance levels within which transboundary and international water cooperation is undertaken, global, continental, Pan-African, regional, and shared water resources levels among the existing conventions to which Zambia is a part. One is at the regional level, and 3 at the shared water course level. Zambia is a member of the African Ministers' Council on Water, AMICAL, a cooperative arrangement at the Pan-African level. However, Zambia is not part to any global cooperative arrangements on water, and consequently foregoing opportunities to mobilize resources and building capacity for enforcing existing agreements. Madam Speaker, I wish to ask that the House do support government's position that we accede to the UN Convention. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Sesheke, winding up debate.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the responsibility of the committee is very explicitly clear. Receive submissions from the stakeholders and inform the House and yourself, Madam Speaker, accordingly without any addition or subtraction from the stakeholders. It is worth noting, Madam Speaker, that the stakeholders, as it is explicitly indicated in the report, are not in support of acceding to this. And as a chairperson to this committee, I will do a disservice firstly to myself, to yourself, Madam Speaker, as well as the stakeholders that appeared and my members if I do not state accordingly as couched in the report. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the members that have ably debated this report, that Zambia is and does not sit on any coastline. And the position is as is. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Order, honorable member who is campaigning for being a minister. I put the question. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism on the International Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Water Courses and International Lakes for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Friday, 19th July 2024. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. No. The noes have it. The question is resolved in the negative. If the report has not been adopted, it's been rejected. I think you don't understand what is happening. So, in other words, the convention will be acceded to. So let's make progress. Yes, should be following. It's too... Anyway, you were not following, so unfortunately, there is an indication for a point of order. Honorable member for Zambezi East, what's the point of order?
Madam Speaker, I'm just rising on a point of order, just to revisit what we have done as a House. It's not clear for members of Parliament, and this House is a House of rules. So in my opinion, Madam Speaker, with your indulgence, it would be important to settle the matter in an amicable way, to avoid these bickerings which go on outside there. Tomorrow you will hear they forced people to do this and that and that. We have numbers here. If it is to decide correctly, people will decide correctly in a formal way. So in my opinion, probably, with your indulgence, Madam Speaker, the process be repeated. I submit.
I don't know what is not clear. There is a motion to adopt the report of the committee, and when we were voting, those who were in support of adopting the report, they said yes. Those who were not in support said no. The more were more than the yes. So the noes have it. That means the report is not adopted. The division, you didn't call for division. So you should be following when we are debating. The Honorable Member for Shuangan, do you have a point?
Madam Speaker, with due respect, this is your report. And we as an institution should set precedents that will judge us properly. Your committee chairperson has moved a motion to adopt this report with its recommendations. And I think we shouldn't approach it casually. Members must understand the implications of not adopting this report or adopting the report for the future of this nation. And that's why, Madam Speaker, we keep referring to them as your reports. If now it's going to be a desire that your committees will be bringing reports here, and we as the House don't support, it's a precedent we have to agree to set. Because ideally, when the committee acting on our behalf collectively bring the report here, we must endeavor to support their recommendations and conclusions by adopting your report. So it will be prudent, and I support the suggestion by the Honorable colleague from Zambezi, that you make it clear so that we can respond properly with an understanding that we are refusing to adopt your report or we are accepting to adopt your report. It's very important, Madam Speaker, that we set the record straight.
The issue is, Honorable Member, is that when we are debating, Honorable Members are supposed to follow and listen to the debate, and also be aware of the final decision that needs to be made. The question was asked, and the answers were made. And I made a ruling that the noes have it, and the question was resolved in the negative. So that means the report has not been adopted, has been rejected. So when a report is brought before the House, it comes from the committee. The committee makes a recommendation, and the recommendation is subjected to a debate before the Honorable House. The decision of the House is what carries the day. Be it if they refuse the recommendation, then it's up to the House to make a decision. And if they accept the recommendation, it's up to the House to make a decision. It doesn't matter which committee has made. Of course, each committee is the committee of the House. But when the recommendations are made, the final decision is made by the House. So it's resolved. We can't continue debating a matter that is closed. Next time you should be alert if you want to make sure you adopt your reports. So let's proceed. The clerk will now read the orders of the day.
The Minerals Regulation Commission Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2024, second reading.
The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I beg to move that the bill be now read for the second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity to have the Minerals Regulation Commission Bill 2024 to be read for the second time. Madam Speaker, the following are the principles of the bill. A, minerals resources are a non-renewable resource and shall be conserved, developed, and used prudently.
Order, honorable members, please, let's listen to the debate so that we follow. May the honorable minister continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mineral resources are a non-renewable resource and shall be conserved, developed, and prudently used, taking into account the needs of the present and future generations. B, mineral resources shall be explored and developed in a manner that promotes and contributes to socio-economic development and in accordance with international agreements to which the Republic is a party. The exploitation of minerals shall ensure safety, health, and environmental protection. Wasteful mining practices shall be avoided so as to promote sustainable development and prevent adverse environmental effects. Citizens shall have equitable access to mineral resources and benefits from the mineral resources development, and finally, development of local communities in areas surrounding the mining area based on prioritization of community needs, health, and safety. Madam Speaker, as members of the House are aware, this bill was returned to the House to allow for wide consultation. Though it was necessary to allow for wide consultation, I wish to take this opportunity to reiterate that during the formulation of the bill, government through my ministry endeavored to reach out to a wider spectrum of stakeholders. For instance, about 124 institutions were consulted, with a process of involving back and forth engagements with most of the institutions. However, as a ministry, we are alive to the fact that it is possible that certain sections of stakeholders may have felt that consultations were not wide enough. It is for this reason that as a ministry, the return of the bill to this House has provided yet again another opportunity for stakeholders who may have felt that the consultation process was not widely conducted to allow them to amplify their voices on the bill. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The chairperson of the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labour Matters, the Honourable Member for Ron.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in accordance with its terms of reference, as provided for in Standing Orders 209J and 210J of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2024, the committee was tasked to reconsider the Minerals Regulations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2024, which was referred back to the committee after the Republican President, His Excellency, exercised these powers and retained the bill pursuant to Article 66 1B of the Constitution of Zambia, Act number 1 of the Laws of Zambia. In order to acquaint itself with the ramifications of the bill, the committee sought both written and oral submissions from key stakeholders. Madam Speaker, from the outset, I want to state that most witnesses who appeared before the committee were in support of the bill, while others stated that the bill needed to be fine-tuned in order to allow it meet their aspirations. In this regard, allow me then, Madam Speaker, to highlight a few concerns raised in addressing the message from the President and on certain provisions. Madam Speaker, I am confident that the members of the August House have read the committee's report. I will therefore only highlight a few issues that caught the committee's attention in addressing the concerns from the President. Madam Speaker, I want to state that the committee commends the initiative to establish the Minerals Regulatory Commission to regulate and monitor the development and management of mineral resources in Zambia. The Commission will ensure regular checks, compliance with laws and regulations, reducing the risk of illegal mining activities. They will ultimately promote sustainable mining practices to minimize negative environmental impact as well as allow Zambia to obtain more benefits from the mineral sector, from the mining sector. Madam Speaker, the committee has observed that Zambia has been operating under a reactive tax regime. This means that our mining tax system frequently changes according to economic conditions, political pressures, and indeed specific events. Therefore, the committee urges the government to, as a matter of urgency, implement a progressive taxation system where larger and more profitable mining operations pay their higher tax rate to ensure fair contributions from all mining entities. Madam Speaker, additionally, the government should develop a long-term tax strategy outlining its vision for the tax system over the next 10 to 20 years. This strategy should include objectives for revenue generations, economic growth, and indeed social equity. Madam Speaker, to address the President's concern regarding the need for extensive or inclusive consultations, I repeat, Madam Speaker, in addressing the President's concern regarding the need for extensive or inclusive consultations with stakeholders, the committee notes that the Minerals Regulations Commission Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2024, extensively consulted a diverse range of stakeholders. This included mining companies, community representatives, civil society organizations, industrial associations, academia, and indeed international organizations. Other views received from stakeholders who did not have the opportunity to interact with the committee or the Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development have their views detailed in the committee's report. Therefore, the committee is of the view that a mechanism should be put in place that will ensure holding of regular consultative forums. These permanent forums or committees will allow stakeholders to regularly meet, discuss ongoing issues, and provide feedback on the implementation of the bill. Madam Speaker, allow me to conclude by stating that the committee supports the bill and therefore urges the House to take its recommendations into consideration as the bill is being debated. Finally, Madam Speaker, I wish to pay tribute to stakeholders who interacted with the committee. Gratitude also goes to you and the clerk of the National Assembly for the guidance and support rendered to the committee throughout its deliberations. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? I see a lot of indications. If we can limit our time to about 4 minutes, then we'll allow all the members to debate. And also let's avoid being repetitive. The Honorable Member for Kamfinsa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me first of all to put it on record that the submission I wish to tender today is dedicated to those that have advocated for Zambia to begin maximizing benefits from the mining sector. I'm aware, Madam Speaker, in conclusion of the submissions that were made in this particular report, that 124 stakeholders were invited to come and make submissions to this particular bill. Madam Speaker, you are aware that one of the reasons why this bill was referred back to Parliament was to ensure that anything that is missing in the final document, Madam Speaker, is incorporated. And I wish to draw this august House, Madam Speaker, to the 4 objectives of the bill. The 4 objectives of the bill, Madam Speaker, according to the report and according to the draft bill, Madam Speaker, number 1, to regulate and monitor the development and management of mineral resources in the Republic. Number 2, to establish the Minerals Regulation Commission and provide for its functions. Number C, establish the Mining Appeals Tribunal. And D, which is of my interest, Madam Speaker, is to repeal and replace the Mines and Minerals Development Act. What this means, Madam Speaker, is that we are doing away with one law and we are coming up with another law. Now, Madam Speaker, we can't miss this opportunity to do the right thing if we are going to come up with a new law. And this is why, Madam Speaker, allow me to quickly refer the Minister responsible for mines on the importance of acknowledging the need for us to establish local content. I'm sure for those that may not be aware, local content simply means the extent of utilization of local inputs and products in the production and provision of goods and services throughout the economy. What this means, Madam Speaker, is that if we are going to have citizens participate in our economy, Madam Speaker, the question we must ask ourselves, and I hope the Minister will come and respond to this very, very important issue, is the issue of local content. How many local producers of goods and services, Madam Speaker, are participating in our mining resource? And I'm not talking about the mining activity in terms of holding mining licenses. I'm talking about the capital budget that all these mining companies tend to allocate. And I'll give an example, Madam Speaker. We've got Kansanshi mine in Solwezi. The question we need to ask ourselves today is how much money of the budget that Kansanshi allocates towards capital expenditure is actually reserved for our local people. How much of the money that KCM allocates for capital expenditure, Madam Speaker, is allocated to local content? The importance of this initiative, Madam Speaker, is that this current bill, which the Minister wants us to support today, unfortunately, Madam Speaker, I've gone through all the 76 pages. There is no mention of local content, Madam Speaker. There is no mention on any of the 76 pages where the bill is basically saying, local people that want to provide goods and services, this is your allocation. I would have expected that since this bill has been referred back to Parliament, the committee was supposed to interrogate the issue of local content. And on page 2, Madam Speaker, of your report, there is mention for the need to link local content to all the other sectors, meaning we link mining to agriculture, we link mining to trading. Unfortunately, Honorable Minister of Mines, the bill that you have brought today to Parliament has not adequately dealt with the issue of local content. My suggestion, therefore, Madam Speaker, to the proposed changes that need to be made to this bill, number 1, because we can't put everything in the bill, Madam Speaker, a sentence on local content is required, and then the sentence should couple that provision with a statutory instrument. I'm aware, for instance, Madam Speaker, that in 2017-2018, Zambia developed the National Strategy on Local Content. That National Strategy on Local Content, Madam Speaker, proposed that we need to come up with a statutory instrument that would prescribe the benefits that will come to our people. I therefore wish to propose 4 suggestions, Madam Speaker, and I'll be very quick considering your guidance on time. Number 1, I wish to propose, Madam Speaker, that 35% of the annual capital budget for all mining companies should be reserved for our local people. So if Mopani is going to spend $1 billion, Madam Speaker, 35% should go to our local people. Number 2, Madam Speaker, very quickly, I want to propose that non-core goods and services, those that may not be too technical, 100% of those non-core goods, Madam Speaker, should go to our local people. This is what our local people are demanding. Number 3, Madam Speaker, the local content aspect should actually be prescribed in the law so that we don't leave it to the preserve of any minister that would come in future. We want the law to prescribe that local content, Madam Speaker, should be in the regulations of the current bill that is being proposed. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I wish to propose that once this bill is approved, we expect that before the end of this year, the local content aspect in the mining sector should be implemented. so that quickly our people begin to maximize benefits. So, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I know you've restricted our time, but in conclusion, Madam Speaker, the bill has fallen short of one important aspect, which is the local content. We give our people this provision. Madam Speaker, the people of Kamfinsa will be ready to support what has been proposed, and I thank you.
Thank you for yielding 1 minute. The Honorable Member for Usakiri.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to articulate the mining policy. Madam Speaker, we all know that our economy is largely dependent on mining. We also know that due to energy transition, copper, cobalt, lithium are minerals of the future that will drive the green economy, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, after privatization, as a country, we lost control of these mines. Madam Speaker, this bill before us is calling for optimal utilization of the minerals, but it is lacking policy direction on the value addition. For example, how much of our minerals, that is, the minerals that are produced in Zambia, should be reserved for value addition? This aspect is not there, Madam Speaker. So we expected the bill, since it is calling for optimal utilization of minerals, this should be captured here. That is why you see even on clause 15, where the stakeholders are challenging where the minister should hold a stakeholder on behalf of the country, it's because of this. We expect the bill to demand joint exploration with these prospective investors. My colleague has just talked about, I will not repeat the local content. I also further propose that he talked about non-core mining activities. On the core mining activities, we are proposing to have 40% of the core mining activities, such as mining development, drilling, and the rest. 40% should be reserved for the locals. And to enforce this, what do we need to do? We need, on the board, we need to have the Ministry of Trade, Commerce and Trade. We need to have the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise, so that this particular aspect is enforceable. Madam Speaker, maybe let me go quickly propose what we need to do, because the time will not allow us to table everything. What we need to do, number one, is we need to transform ZCCMIH Holdings from a holding company into a fully-fledged mining company. We also need to receipt all the minerals produced in locally here, so that thereafter then, these investors now can repatriate their revenue afterwards. We also need to ensure that all the minerals, or maybe before I go to that, we need on exploration, because we have two major problems on how we lost it. Because repealing the Mines and Mineral Development Act of 2015, Madam Speaker, presents to us an opportunity to deal with the historical mistakes of shareholding. Number two, the exploration aspect. Number three, okay, let me avoid that one because it will bring controversy. So we need to deal with these aspects. We are lobbying, so we don't need to fight here. So we need to deal with the historical challenges, Madam Speaker. So, going like this will be an academic exercise. We are not going to achieve what we want to achieve. We have a troubling question us being a company with all these mineral endowments, Madam Speaker, we are still struggling to fund our development using the mineral wealth. Why? Because our shareholding, all our shareholding in this country, they are below 20%. And the standard practice world over is that all shares that are below 20% means you have lost control as a country. Even there on the board, even when you sit, you are a passenger, your decision doesn't count. All shares must be raised to 40%. 40% is a controlling share. 30% is partial control. So these shares must be raised. Then the bill also must demand joint exploration. And also, ZCCMIH.
Order. As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes for a health break.
Well, thank you so much for still being with us on Parliament Television. Business has been suspended for 20 minutes. And at the time business was suspended, the House was considering the Minerals Regulation Commission Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2024, which is at second reading stage. It was Usakile, Member of Parliament, Mr. Pavyuma Kalolo, who was on the floor of the House debating. So when business resumes at 17 hours, the member will continue debating. Let's quickly look at what has been considered on the floor of the House when business resumed at 14:30 today.
When business resumed, Madam Speaker did make 3 announcements. In her first announcement, Madam Speaker recognized the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Choma Catholic School in Choma District. Madam Speaker, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, warmly welcomed the visitors to the National Assembly.
The other announcement that Madam Speaker made earlier in the day was to inform the House that she had received communication to the effect that in the absence of her Honour, the Vice President, who is attending to other government business, the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security, Honourable Jacob Jack Mwimbu, State Council MP, had been appointed acting leader of government business in the House from today, 23rd July 2024, till further notice.
And the third announcement that Madam Speaker made, she informed the House that the elective annual general meeting for the Interparliamentary Union IPU Zambia National Group that was slated for Wednesday 24th July 2024 at 10:30 hours has been postponed to Monday 29th July 2024 at 10 hours in the Auditorium Parliament buildings. She encouraged all honourable members to observe time and be ready to participate effectively in the AGM. And so those were the announcements that Madam Speaker made possible.
Still to come, we do have 3 more bills yet to be considered on the floor of the House, and these are the Zambia Qualifications Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2024. This one is equally coming up at second reading stage.
And we also expect the Zambia Institute of Advanced Education Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2024 to come up at committee stage. If you do remember well, and if you're with us last week on Friday, the chairperson of the Accounts, the Public Accounts Committee, who is also Bwana Mkubwa, Member of Parliament, Mr. Warren Mwambazi, did present a report urging the House to adopt a report of the Auditor General on the accounts of the public of the financial year ended 31st December 2022 for the third session of the 13th National Assembly. This document was laid on the table of the House on the 18th of July 2024, and I expect resumption of debate on that report. So basically, that's the business, and we also had 2 questions earlier in the day, Taza. Exactly, Boss, and we will get to look at the details at a later stage, but just now we take a break. Do join us on the other side. Continue watching Parliament Television.
Oh, thanks so much. My full names are Mishek Mtetwa Nyambose. I'm from Ezuleni village, Chief Pikamalaza, My father was Mr. Davison Mtetwa Mishek Nyambose. My mother was from Lupafia village within Chief Pikamanaza, Tamarirapo Chipeta. They are all late. I went to school. I started school in 1977 at Chongwe Primary School. I finished my school in 1989. I joined Chongwe District Council. I've worked in the local authorities. From there, in the course of my work, I was identified by my colleagues at Chongwe District Council to represent them in the union. So I've been a unionist. From the time that I joined the council in 1995, I went into the union. Although at school again I was a prefect, a vice head, house captain from Chinga House. I was a footballer, active footballer. I was in the drama. So I was an active member at school. Then in my work life, I joined the council, went into the union. Whilst I was working for Chongwe District Council, I became very active, you know, working, pushing for the better conditions of the people that I represented at Chongwe Council. I came into the political life. It started in Chongwe, 2016. I was identified by the people. But because I was not so much active in the party, I don't know what happened. The party that I wanted to relate with, they left me out. I went back to my home. I was called. Can you come here? We are seeing you in the National Executive Committee of the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions. You are a national figure, fighting and uplifting the welfare of the workers in this country. Why can't you come here and do it? I went back to home. And it was very easy because when I just accepted that, the people took it upon themselves, because I've been hearing about their own son who is contributing to the national welfare. Now he should come to Chasefu. I found some people. We went into contestation. The people picked me. I tried to continue with the party that I thought I can relate with. It failed again. What did I say? I said I would give up. But the people insisted, you are our own. We see the potential in you. And we want you to lead us because we have seen what you are. You are a people-centric person. Well, that's what I am. I like the people, especially the ordinary people who cannot have food, who cannot afford to get fertilizer, who cannot afford to get the basic things. So I went in, and it was overwhelming. I went through and I was elected. And I thank the people of Chasefu for that. That is why I always want to identify myself with my constituency, which is Chasefu, my home. And I'm enjoying so far. I'm a married person with 6 children. My constituency, Chasefu constituency, is a rural constituency, which was created in 1973, if not mistaken. It's an old constituency, but a new district. The district was formally declared as district in 2018. The constituency is an old one. We have had eminent MPs who have been there. They did a lot that time. But when you look at Chasefu now, it's really in a very dire situation. This is not exaggerated. If there is one of the underdeveloped constituency in this country, Chasefu is one of them. Imagine, Chasefu has no boarding school. No boarding school at all. It has no infrastructure. It's now that we have built a civic center. A new civic center which has not yet been commissioned. It was a sub-bomber of Lundazi. We thank the Catholic who have a hospital called Kanyanga Hospital. They have been there offering a service to the community, and that is the only hospital that has been helping what we call our hospital. Although now, of the recent years, there was a mini hospital that was built. It has not yet been fully operationalized. So it's a new thing. And that is the thing that we are working on to ensure that we can have a staff establishment and everything. So, Chasefu is a rural constituency with the very deplorable roads. Water is a major challenge. I'm talking about clean and safe drinking water befitting a human being. That is not there. Very few boreholes. People are drinking with wild animals. Roads going to Chinana, Msoromoka, Chamsoro, everywhere the roads are bad. So, this is how I can describe my constituency. It's a constituency that needs immediately to see that we are moving to change in terms of bringing development closer to the people. My agenda is to see to it, number one, the Lundazi Chama Road is done. Number two, Chasefu boarding should be completed. And also to have another boarding school, 2 or 3. Chasefu is big. So if you can have secondary schools, boarding schools, our children will not go to other places for schools. We have got very intelligent children of ours who need boarding schools. The other thing is to ensure that Chasefu has passable roads, whether in the village, wherever we should have good roads, passable, that every person can appreciate. And that is the agenda that I have. Number one, I said, is the Lundazi Chama Road. This is our prayer that if this road can be tarred, because it links us to Nakonde, it links us to Chipata. I've said Lundazi Chama. But if this road can be done up to Chipata, coming to Saka, we shall be able, our people want to also to move on good roads, tarmacs, like any other part of the country. And also our people can be able to access Nakonde, buy their goods for resale from Tanzania. They can access easily to Malawi. They can access easily to Chanida border in Katete. This is the main agenda. The other thing is to ensure that we have good water. For our Emusa sub-boma, we need a water reticulation system, piped water for our CBD. From Egitkeni, Emusa should have piped water. So if this is done, and I want to take this opportunity to say that government, the current New Dawn government, has given us 80 boreholes, and the contractor is already identified. So he should be mobilizing to start drilling these boreholes. Besides these boreholes, we are given a water kiosk for the CBD so that we can have piped water. People should be getting water in our CBD. That's number one. The other issue is we need health care system. For instance, we need the mini hospital to be operationalized so that we can have doctors, and it should be a referral center. We have been given a mortuary unit. We have already sat as a CDF committee to ensure we have our own mortuary. People from Chasefu, they bury, our relative dies now, in the evening they are buried. Because we don't have anywhere to take our beloved ones. We don't give them befitting send-off. If either those who can manage, they take their bodies to Rumezi. Because the Lundazi one, as I'm speaking, is also down. So our mortuary unit, we have already decided we are building a mortuary unit so that this machine can be there. So if we have good health centers, health posts, roads, water, Chasefu will not be the same. The other issue that I wanted to mention is the police and security. As I'm speaking, Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, I pushed up a question to demand that we should have our police station in Chasefu. And the government has responded that they are going to build a police station with 40 housing units for police officers. As you may be aware, Chasefu borders with Chama South, this side, Chama North, this side, Lundazi, and Malawi. The biggest stretch is our friends in Malawi, a porous border. So security is an issue in Chasefu. And I want to thank the position by government that they should build a police station and the police posts in all those areas. The other issue I forgot to mention is the issue of the network, telephone network. that is an issue. So I've been engaging the Ministry of Technology, Science and Technology, to ensure that we have connectivity, so that when we have security concerns, our people are able to. When we have business to transact, the people of Chasefu should feel part of this country. They are able to access network and transact, and our children are able to Google and do anything, research, because there's network. So this is my desire and the desire of the people of Chasefu, so that Chasefu can change. We are lucky we have been given 473 teachers for the first time. So this is an issue that we are going to focus our CDF to ensure that we build housing units for civil servants, teachers, clinic officers, and agriculture officers, so that they can have an environment befitting a civil servant. Then we are going to build so many classroom blocks and health posts, so that we can see the development and people of Chasefu feel part and parcel of this country. Otherwise, I'm determined and have the support of the people. We are working very well with the traditional leadership, Senior Chief Magodi 6 and Chief Pikamaraza, and all the traditional leaders. They are behind to ensure that we work with the government to ensure that Chasefu can be a district or a constituency of a modern nature. My appeal to the people of Chasefu is that let us continue working together, and please let us love one another and ensure that we develop Chasefu. Let's come together for the purpose of development. Let us share these ideas. As you are aware, it's a bottom-up arrangement. The ward development committees, CDF committees or district committees, the council, all the councillors, the council chairperson, the district commissioner, and the member of parliament, with the president. If we work together, Chasefu will be a changed person. I want to thank them, and they should continue supporting me the way they've been supporting me. I'm committed to transforming Chasefu.
My name is Binwo Chansampundu. I was born on the 9th of October 1982 away in Mufrira. It's a place called the Place of Abundancy. By then my father was working for the National Service stationed in Ndola back then. And so I did my primary school and then proceeded to do my secondary school education at Kawamba Boys Secondary School from 1982 to 1998 to 2000 when I completed. I straight away went to study accountancy. Then we had a program that was called NATEC. I think those who are very familiar with the accountancy program in Zambia knows that NATEC then was the course for the tough boys. And so I miraculously did that course within 1 year, 6 months, when the prescribed time frame was for 2 years. So I boast myself as one of those that defied all odds to do the NATEC.
Well, thank you so much for still being with us on Parliament Television. The House is still on the 20 minutes health break. In 2 minutes time or so, business resumes. At the time business was suspended, the House was considering a report which was presented by Sesheke, Member of Parliament, who is also chairperson of the Committee on Energy, Water, Development and Tourism, and this is Mr. Romeo Kangombe. The House was considering the Minerals Regulation Commission Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2024, which is at second reading, and it was Nkana Member of Parliament, Mr. Podiuma Kalobo, who was on the floor of the House debating, and the earlier report that I talked about has since been adopted.
And there are three other bills that we expect the House to consider. We have the Zambia Qualifications Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2024, to come at the second reading stage. And we also expect the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2024, to be considered at committee stage, and the Lands Tribunal Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2024, to be considered at third reading stage.
And earlier on, the House did consider question 391, which came from Kalabo Central Member of Parliament, who is Mr. Chinga Miyutu, directing his question to the Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise Development. The member wanted to find out how many marketeers countrywide benefited from the marketeer booster loans under the Citizen Economic Empowerment Commission as of December 2020. We'll be able to share with you details of the responses that came from the Minister at adjournment time. And
Madam Speaker.
bells are ringing, which means that there is no quorum on the floor of the House. Anytime from now, once the quorum is constituted, business resumes. So bells are ringing. It is a requirement that 1/3 of the total number of members of Parliament be present in the House. And Taza, earlier on, the House did consider a report of the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism, urging the House to adopt the report of the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism on the International Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Water Courses and International Lakes for the third session of the 13th National Assembly. And this one was seconded by Ms. Alame Kamwata, Pemba Member of Parliament. And when the question was put, this report was negative. It was not adopted.
Exactly, Post. And once a quorum is constituted, we do expect business of the House to resume, and we expect resumption of debate on the Minerals Regulation Commission Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2024, which was under consideration at the time business was being suspended for the 20 minutes break. And we do expect Mr. Pablo Makalowo to continue his debate.
And in time from now, business will resume once the quorum is constituted, and there will be resumption of consideration of the report by the Public Accounts Committee, motion of 19th July 2024, and it was moved by Bwana Mkubwa, Member of Parliament, Mr. Warren Mwambazi. At the time, business was interrupted last week on Friday. And I'll be able to share with you details of the responses that cabinet ministers gave in the first question and the second question, which came from Mr. Fube Chilubi, Member of Parliament. For now, we cross over to the House.
Order. When business was suspended, the House was considering the second reading stage of the Minerals Regulation Commission Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2024, and the Honorable Member for Usakili was debating. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When business was interrupted, I was about to submit that the CCMYH, once they raise shares to 40% and above, they should be able to sell their own copper, like the way Congo is doing, so that we mitigate transfer pricing that is happening between the parent companies and these subsidiary companies. Also, all large-scale mines should be listed on the Lusaka Stock Exchange so that the citizens can have some shares in these mines. Another point, Madam Speaker, Section 25, 1E of this bill, Madam Speaker, duplicates the Industrial and Labor Relations Act. So we need to delete it. There is no way we can close a mine that has got labor disputes Industrial and Labour Relations Act has got dispute resolutions alternatives that has been provided for already in that act. Madam Speaker, I want to emphasize again the point that repealing the Mines and Mineral Development Act of 2015, Madam Speaker, again presents an opportunity to this country to deal with historical challenges of exploration, shareholding. Also, it will help us deal with the economic sabotage that is there, so that at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, as a country, we are going to ensure social justice in the mining sector. Madam Speaker, there is no future without mining in this country. This mining, Madam Speaker, is the foreign exchange earner of about 70%. So, as we address this bill, Madam Speaker, we need to ensure that we put things that will reinforce. I've also seen, Madam Speaker, the bill has reinforced, has restricted small-scale and artisanal mining to small-scale miners, but it has not gone further to protect them in terms of the ownership, where they will decide to go into joint ventures with other foreign nationals. So the bill should have said 50% when they partner with profit sharing should be to these local people. It should also provide for preferential treatment, like helping them access finances, because these locals who are in this category,
You can wind up, Honorable
their
Member.
challenge number one is resources. Madam Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member from Mufulira.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to speak to this law that should shape the future, that should shape the economic development of this country. Madam Speaker, this country has always been known for mining, and we have an opportunity as the National Assembly of today to contribute to the realization of the vast wealth that the minerals we have in this country can give and deliver this country out of poverty. Madam Speaker, I'm one of those that believe that though we say mines or minerals are wasting assets, we still have a long way before we can finish them all. We still have a lot of minerals that are still under the ground, yet to be explored, yet to be mined. So we have this very important opportunity now that the bill has been referred back for further consultations to make sure that what we have all been talking about as lacking or not included in the current law are included in this law that we are developing now. And I also hope that some of those stakeholders who may not have had an opportunity to speak to the development of this bill can now have that opportunity. Though I have seen, according to this report, some of the witnesses that have been mentioned as wishing for further consultations, like the Chamber of Mines, they've been at every stage of the development of this bill. I've seen at an appendix that they were there when the ministry was doing consultations. When the bill came here, they were also there at the first calling of the witnesses, even the second. So I hope that the third time they will have to say all that they want to say so that we move forward. Madam Speaker, let me talk about one of the recommendations in this report, which is talking about taxation of the mines. But this report is saying that our tax regime has always been reactive and frequently changes in response to economic conditions or political pressures or specific events. I think the biggest problem that we have, that challenges having a long-term taxing regime is in fact what has been said in this report, political pressures. I agree that what we need is progressive tax regime. Progressive tax regime that will not change today or tomorrow, but that can stand the test of time.
because even investors do have the confidence when the tax regime is well known. But because of the political pressures that every government that comes into power faces, we see the tax regime change. Ever since these mines were privatized, we can talk about the MMD throughout the tenure that the MMD was in power, how many times the tax law was changing. Even within the PF, changed what was inherited from the MMD. Now we have this government also which has changed what was found the PF had put in place. This is the biggest problem that we have. The moment we stop looking at the taxing regime that favors or answers the existing political pressure, we will come up with long-lasting. Already even now as we are talking, in the 2022 budget when the government first made its budget, the changes that were introduced, for example, on the mineral royalty, received a lot of objection from us on your left, Madam Speaker. However, the government went ahead. And I can tell you also, Madam Speaker, that when the government changes next, that policy, that position on the mineral royalty will be revisited. So as I support progressive tax regime, I also want to urge the government to make wide consultations so that every stakeholder, political stakeholders, captains of the industry, the mining entities themselves can have a lasting contribution. We are all interested in a stable tax system that will guarantee or that will make the investors invest in the long term. But if we start putting ahead, political pressures ahead of the economic development of this country, we'll always be seeing this tax position changing. So yes, we need a progressive tax system. The other point, Madam Speaker, I want to talk about is what is contained in Clause 15 of the bill. Clause 15, Madam Speaker, is talking about the acquisition of mining rights and investment by government. The witnesses that have made submissions this time around are calling this not to be a very good practice. What this clause is basically saying, Madam Speaker, is that the government must have an interest in the mines that we have in this country. At the time of obtaining an exploration license and progressing further to mining, the interests of the government must be covered. For me, this is a very progressive clause. And for people who love this country to come and submit that this is not good practice. Last week, we were debating your report, Madam Speaker. I think
the honorable members on my right, I look at each one of you is having a chat with another member. You are supposed to be listening to the debate so that you are able to respond when the time comes and also make a decision to vote which way. May the honorable member continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Last week we were talking about the report that came from the Planning and Budgeting, which was urging the government to transform ZCCMIH to a statutory body that should have guaranteed interests or shares in all the mining enterprises in this country. And they gave us, that is the common trend. In the DRC, it is like that. In Botswana, it is like that. So for me, I see this clause 15, although the witnesses are saying it's not progressive, I find it to be very progressive because it will then entrench what we aspire. Having our own state-owned, having majority interest in the mining enterprises. And for me, my submission, as we revise or as we relook at this clause, is not to remove it, but in fact to go further and state what percentage our own state-owned company should have. That's what we should actually be strengthening this clause for. And it must be having majority control, not less than 51% in all the mining operations that we are going to have. In that way, we are going to maximize the revenue, we are going to realize the wealth that we have in our own minerals for the development of our economy. So, the ministry concerned, we strengthen this clause 15 by stipulating the number of shares or the ownership percentage that our own state-owned company should have in these mining developments. And it must be the one which gives control. Let the investors come with other resources, but we must be in charge of our own mineral wealth. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me time to also make a few comments on this bill which we are now reconsidering. Madam Speaker, I've been here for a number of years, and I think it's the very first time I've seen the sitting head of state evoke the powers under Article 66 to send back a bill for reconsideration. And therefore, it's prudent that we understand the reasons why the bill, which should have been law by now, and probably awaiting commencement order, has come back to us. And it's in the indictment, I think, on all of us. And Minister of Justice, you chair the Cab Registration Committee. You know the rigorous processes of developing a bill. And so when we get ourselves into a situation where we are now, we must look back and say who was left behind. Because we may be saying stakeholders when probably there's only one stakeholder who is trying to bulldoze everybody else. So we need to understand, Honorable Minister, if you can share time to elaborate to us what the concerns could have been from the stakeholders. We spent time, Madam Speaker, on this bill, and I remember through the Honorable Member for Sakile, we worked together to push certain amendments at the committee stage on this very bill. Of course, the substantive minister was away. He was being represented by his colleague, and we appealed to his colleague who was acting in his capacity to look at those proposed amendments that were pushed to him in order to ensure inclusivity. Passing legislation, Madam Speaker, could be just to enable certain government policies to be implemented. The Honorable MP for Mufrira was making reference to the committee that was reviewing the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan for 2023. And this was the plan to cater for the period of 2022-2026. The mining sector is one sector which is very key to the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan. And that's why the Minister of Finance cannot come here and present a report, his budget without the 8th development plan. Now, the issues raised in the review of that the committee on their report on page 33, they were very clear on the legislation to establish the CCMIH as a government mining company under statutory registration. And the committee was recommending that government should consider changing the ownership of the CCMIH and establish a statutory body under the Act of Parliament to operate as a government mining company, as the case is in Botswana and in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Additionally, they recommended that the CCMIH should have sharing holding of not less than 49% in all greenfield mines, which is speaking back to what my colleagues have already alluded to. And they also further talked about the upcoming gold mining activities. And they were saying the committee observes that there was no mechanism to establish the amount of gold produced by small-scale miners, which can lead to a loss of mineral revenues. So, Madam Speaker, the act that the Honorable Minister of Mines is bringing back for consideration should take into account some of these proposals that are coming from your report in order for the people of Zambia to get beneficiations from the mining sector. Honorable Minister, don't be bullied by one or two stakeholders. Zambia has got so many millions of people who are looking forward to your sector for the livelihoods to be improved, because this still remains at the center of the economic activities of this country. The Minister of Finance depends so much on how you are going to ramp up production and how much of foreign revenue you are going to roll in this country in order for him to support other sectors of the economy. So our plea to you is that let this be a genuine cause, and it should be stakeholders that taking the interest of many Zambians at heart. You have a sole responsibility, Honorable Minister. Yes, the other sectors are equally important, but like we are saying, this is diminishing assets. We have got so many mining activities coming up. The Honorable Member from Pika and myself here would want to see how our people in Pika, Shuangandu, and many other areas where we have got these new gold deposits are going to benefit in a more structured way than a way where we get a few people come and exploit this natural capital, make money, and take off. So this bill coming back to us presents an opportunity for you to address some of the gaps that could have been identified and those proposals that could have been made in terms of amendments. Once again, you don't have to be bullied by one stakeholder. Yours is to take the responsibility of all the more than 18 million
Is
Zambians.
the Honorable Member for Shuangandu suggesting in any way that the Honorable Minister of Mines is being bullied?
No, Madam Speaker, I'm just encouraging him. Because sometimes certain stakeholders would want to take a round share at the expense of the main Zambians out there. This has happened before, and we wouldn't want it to continue happening, because this asset is what Zambians depend on. We were just advising the Honorable Minister of Finance when he came with his supplementary estimates. If you look at the revenue sources, his revenue envelope, you could see how much is in a difficult space, Madam Speaker. And so the Honorable Minister of Mines, we will support you if all the clauses that are progressive here in the bill are maintained for the interest of the Zambian people and the Zambian economy. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, honorable members. The list is growing, so I'm appealing to the honorable members again to, if they can yield some time for the next member, because we still have a lot of business on the order paper. The honorable member from Pika.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to add the voice of the people of Mpika to this very important subject. Madam Speaker, mining is our country's main economic stay, and as such, when we are having such bills that are progressive in nature, which will safeguard our resources, we support. In supporting, Madam Speaker, we also make some observations and add the voice of our people. Madam Speaker, on page 5 of your report, the committee notes the reactive tax regime. And it's through this tax regime that we have people that would want to bully, like Honorable Kampyongo would have said. And usually, they achieve what they want. With the existence of the Mines Regulation Commission, we expect that the Ministries of Finance and the Mines will have a tax regime that will benefit our people. Madam Speaker, there is no honor in begging. every day, every year in, every year out. Yet resources are just in our backyard. With a proper tax regime like we had under the late President Levi Patrick Mwanawasa, we had the windfall tax. Mining companies that made a lot of profits would pay a lot in terms of taxes. We saw our economy performing perfect well, and it translated into poverty, real poverty reduction. Not just the economy growing on paper, on the ground our people are suffering. Madam Speaker, your report also on page 3 talks about restricting casino mining to citizens. Madam Speaker, the mining of gold, emerald, and other precious minerals must have been restricted to government of the Republic of Zambia and its citizens. Such rights must have been restricted to our government and we, the people. Today in Mpika, we have foreigners from our neighboring countries. They are mining our gold with no licenses. They are there. Even right now, they are actually mining. If the mining rights were restricted to our people would get the licenses, then go out there to look for funds. That's when maybe foreigners come in. We are a country, Madam Speaker, whose economy is run by foreigners. And we are not even ashamed of that. Madam Speaker, the law should not just provide for the restriction of the artisanal mining licenses and the small-scale mining to Zambians without the provision of a financing scheme that will help our people have access to capital. There must be a financing scheme, a capital readily available for people to go and access for as long as they have acquired the license. Then they are given capital to enable them acquire equipment and other things. Madam Speaker, the previous regime had intentions to facilitate the acquisition of majority stakes in Mopani and KCM by ZCCMIH. Today, a company that was rejected on the copper belt, a broke company that was rejected on the copper belt is back.
Let's stick to the report, Honorable Member. Stick to the report.
Mopani, Madam Speaker, is given back to foreigners again. At a time when we should have increased the stakes by ZCCMIH. Madam Speaker, these are our national assets, and we need them. It's not about Mwayamba. Madam Speaker, I need your protection.
You are also going too far back in history. That's why you are attracting.
Madam Speaker, your report is about mining.
Yes, stick to the
and
report.
It should not be about his feelings.
No, Honorable
It's about
Member.
what the law states.
Honorable
Now
Member, let's avoid. Order, Honorable. Let's restrict ourselves to the report and avoid confrontations among ourselves. We are trying to improve on the law. The report is very clear, the concerns that have been brought out. So, Honorable Member, can you continue restricting yourself to the report?
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And, Madam Speaker, what I was saying is that there is need for government not only to regulate, but also have a large stake in mining. That is the only way, Madam Speaker, we will have resources for us to develop our country. Madam Speaker, also, the issue of mineral mapping is something that we will support. If it was known in the past that we had gold in Mpika, Shwangan, and everywhere in Mchinga province, the resource by now wouldn't have been left to be rooted by foreigners. So, with the existence of the commission, we expect that mineral mapping will be enhanced. And Madam Speaker, exploration. When you talk of exploration, we have companies that have been given licenses for exploration, and these licenses will run for 5 years. Madam Speaker, I don't even know at what point they are monitored to ensure that they do not do the actual mining. In some areas, including Mchinga province, we have companies that are holding exploration licenses, but on the ground, the story is very different. They are actually involved in the actual mining, and they are making money from that same actual mining. Later, after 5 years, they will just abandon the tenement and say, no, we found nothing, there is no mineral. They would have mined, they would have realized how much they spent on acquiring the licenses, and they would have made a lot of profits. Madam Speaker, mineral exploration should be coupled with security checks time and again, so that we ensure that those who are given exploration licenses do not involve themselves in actual mining. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Bwana Mkubwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to comment on this very, very important report on the Mineral Regulation Commission. Madam Speaker, my colleagues who've debated before me, especially my colleagues from the Copper Belt, we understand well the issues of mining. So, Madam Speaker, meaning news or stories about mining, that's we've grown up with it and we know what effect it has on our communities. Madam Speaker, I'll restrict my debate on Clause 7, Clause 15 and 21, and then I'll just look at some of the major concerns and recommendations of this very important report, Madam Speaker, because, Madam Speaker, there's nothing which the multinationals are doing which we can fail to do even through ZCCM-IH, but it's an issue of capital or financing. Because if you look at most of these multinationals, Madam Speaker, they don't even do the core activities, which is mining, but mostly they're outsourced to various institutions to mine on their behalf. Then they just manage the proceeds, as it were. So, Madam Speaker, this your very important report, Madam Speaker, on page 2 and page 3 looks exclusively on the composition of the Mineral Regulation Board and how it needs to encompass very important stakeholders, Madam Speaker, such as affected communities in those mining areas, the civil society, Madam Speaker, the independent experts in issues of environment, because as and when the mine winds up, they need to make good of the environment, as it were, to ensure that people living around that area are not affected. Labor unions, women in mining. Madam Speaker, it's very important that we expand in terms of commission, the board composition, to accommodate very, very important stakeholders, as it were. Madam Speaker, I want Labour to speak mostly on the Clause 15, which my able colleagues have spoken about in terms of government stake, which is very, very important, because we need to ensure that we have a controlling interest as government, because that gives us an upper hand even in the board composition, even in the management, strategic management of some of these mining houses. That's why, Madam Speaker, my colleagues are pushing that ZCCM-IH can be turned into a state-owned enterprise which can be involved in these actual mining activities to ensure that we protect
this very important mineral endowment which we've been blessed with, and we need to drive maximum benefit, as it were, to ensure that our people can benefit effectively to this issue. Madam Speaker, in the same clause 15, I think what we need to harmonize is the issue of dual role upon the Commission in terms of regulator and also a participant in the market. These are some of the salient features we need to harmonize to ensure that we can be on a firm ground. Madam Speaker, on Article 21, which ensures that there's high participation of or citizen involvement in these mining activities, particularly artisanal mining and small-scale mining, very, very important and very, very progressive. But however, Madam Speaker, there's a clause which says that these are small-scale miners and artisanal miners, they are not eligible to an extractive radioactive mining. Then again, it goes on to say that they can partner with a multinational who's got a financial muscle. I think it's important that it's in black and white. Even as a partner, there's no ambiguity, but we know the actual percentage which the local content should have, as it were, to ensure that there's no contest as and when they're partnering with some of these our multinational companies. Madam Speaker, the President has been categorical to say that don't sell the mining licenses, but partner with people who've got muscle. But it is very, very important to ensure that we stipulate the actual percentage in terms of partnering, as it were. Madam Speaker, let me quickly proceed to just comment on the gap in terms of legal framework, which we need to harmonize. It has been ably stated, Madam Speaker, by your committee. It is important that even with the legal framework, we are consistent, Madam Speaker. The collection of management of mining resources, I think we've been deviating from this model to the next model. Even the auditing of extractive industry, Madam Speaker, we are not on point, because ZRI and our auditing institutions, and they don't have the adequate prerequisite skills to adequately audit some of these multinationals or mining houses to ensure that we drive a benefit as a country. So it's important, Madam Speaker, that we come up with a robust system on how this should be done. I've seen there's some suggestions that we have an automated system for collection of royalties. But that's not enough, Madam Speaker, because those systems can also be infiltrated and be changed. So it's important that we come up with a consistent policy which can help us as a country to move forward. Madam Speaker, my colleagues have debated ably on the tax regime. It's important to have a progressive tax system. Madam Speaker, not too long ago, Chile, one of the major producers of copper in this world, they came to learn from us in Zambia. But where are we? We are still grappling with 700 to 800 tons per year. And our colleagues have moved, they are doing millions, 5 million plus tons of copper in a year. Where are we going wrong? These are some of the issues we need to brainstorm and look at. And also, this is the only opportunity we have to ensure that we harmonize some of these defects in the current law to ensure that they can be extinguished by this bill, to ensure that we are on a right trajectory as concerning to mining in this country. And the number one stakeholders, Madam Speaker, is the local people, is the citizens of this country, to ensure that we drive a benefit from these resources as a nation. Madam Speaker, I thank you as I support this report.
Thank you very much. Let me try to balance the debate now. The people on the right, we have Honorable Member for Kanyama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity that you have given us, people of Kanyama, to add a voice to what is being debated. Madam Speaker, we may not have mines in Kanyama, but I think
the Honorable Member from Kana, please. I don't know. You can't restrain yourself. You don't have to debate while seated. It's not on.
No,
No, Honorable Member for Kanyama, don't even encourage.
No, thank you so much, Madam Speaker. To start, Madam Speaker, I support, the return, of this bill to this House by His Excellency the President, Mr. Kainde Chidema, who has just realized that each time a law is passed, you find this feedback from the community. And that is my sentiment too. Why do we have, gaps each time we pass a law? So this is a challenge that I'm trying to address. It just shows that I think we're missing a point, Madam Speaker. Missing a point in the sense that people that needs to be consulted in event there is something that government is trying to come up with are not the people that are actually consulted. You realize that we only have probably, like looking at the report, you realize that when it comes to community, so society, there are maybe one or two people that will go and represent, that's big community. If you look at Kanyama, we're sitting at over 700, and you send one person to represent. For me, that is not good consultation. Madam Speaker, let me give an example of Kanyama. In the event that there is a commission that is being put, or a board, that will look at these, floods that take place in Kanyama, it will be unfortunate if whoever is trying to consult to look at how best that can be addressed only appoints one person. Why can't we have a community engagement? You gather people, a number of them, hear their concerns, because these are the people who actually get affected each time there are floods. Coming to the mining sector, personally, I would have loved if, as we are doing these consultations, can we go to the grassroots, and talk to the actual people that feel the pinch in event they are being, moved from where they are residing, or whatever effects that will come with the mining activities, people who get affected. And by so doing, you would have given a wider scope through which the commission or the board will be able to see how best that institution, in this case the mining sector, will be directed going forward. Madam Speaker, once again, I want to thank the President for having realized that I think the scope was somehow limited by expanding this. And if only we can engage the person who actually feels the pinch, I think he won't have any feedback. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Mitete.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The entire country is endowed with minerals. Hence, the new dawn is poised to want to map everything. But, Madam Speaker, my take here will be maybe 1 or 2 minutes, just to appreciate the separation of powers in Zambia, the checks and balances. Here is the executive, the head of executive, His Excellency the President, President Hakainde Hichilema, sending back a bill. That is as to how things are supposed to be, where separation of powers is concerned in a democracy. Minister, just to mention again that have that deep look for the artisanal licenses. I wouldn't want to go into what is happening in Copperbelt. You handle it. but kudos for mining out of court. Madam Speaker, with those very few points, thank you very much.
Thank you. So the debate was, we had 5 members of parliament from PF, 2 UPND and 1 independent. I think honorable member for Chilubi will bear with me. We don't have much time. So we make progress. May the honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development wind up debate.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Just to appreciate the chairperson and the members of the Committee of National Economy, Trade and Labor Matters for the able manner they are engaging various stakeholders. Madam Speaker, just to quickly also assure the House and the people of Zambia that the issue of the local content is very active. Actually, we are working on a statutory instrument on local content. It's very active on our table. It will give thresholds. We are already doing it. And number 2, Madam Speaker, there is a bill that is coming called the Geological Bill that also talks about funding for artisanal miners, empowering them. We are already working on that. And Madam Speaker, as a ministry, we are even suggesting a separate directorate for artisanal and small-scale mining. That's how serious we have taken this part. So just to assure our honorable members, especially those that debated properly, other than those that wanted to sneak in some useless information. Sorry, Madam Speaker, I withdraw useless. I will withdraw useless, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker,
Ministers withdraw.
I withdraw, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me attempt to respond to one concern from the committee, which is a complete absence of provisions regulating to the operation of the mining cadastre in the bill. The committee report indicates that it appears to be submitted without trace into the commission. I wish to clarify that provisions relating to the operations of the mining cadastre are in the regulations, and that during review of these regulations, again, as government, through my ministry, we intend to carry out wider stakeholder consultations with the industry experts, professional bodies, associations, and the public in general. And just to also emphasize the point raised by the honorable member for Zakile, those are issues that we'll work on. Honorable member for Shwangandu, we have taken note, and my appeal is, before we bring finality to this bill, please still engage the committee and be able to bring those progressive ideas that you brought on the floor. What I noticed, Madam Speaker, from the House, except those that want to be divergent, is that we all converge on how we would like to see regulations in the mining space that will help us actualize more benefit from the mining sector. And as such, as government, we are listening, and that is why kudos to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zambia, for reverting, because he understands the importance of what this bill will achieve. In terms of taxation, Madam Speaker, yes, since we took over power as UPND, we have been very consistent and stable. We have assured both local and international investors that ours is to provide stability and predictability in the economy. You've seen that we haven't been playing around with taxation, and Madam Speaker, what we intended to achieve through a stable environment is to see more investment, which we have seen up until today, Madam Speaker, not pledged investment, but real and actualized, which are beginning to bear fruits we are almost nearing $7 billion plus in terms of various investments that are coming in different mining jurisdictions. And as such, Madam Speaker, would like to thank the committee that worked on this, and we also want to thank everybody that has been supporting the bill, and of course want to assure the people of Zambia that good times are coming, because the mining sector will no longer be mining in court or in confusion, but will be properly regulated so that our people can benefit. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The government chief whip, I don't know what attire is that. Is it a safari suit or the one that the honorable minister is putting on? Please advise your honorable
Madam Speaker, this is a safari suit.
Well, you will discuss with the government chief whip who advise. Please have a chat with each other. Let's get back to business. We are voting now. For those who are not aware what we are doing right now, I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. No. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Minerals Regulation Commission Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2024.
Committee stage to be taken when?
Next Tuesday, Madam Speaker.
Committee stage should be taken next Tuesday, which is what day? 30th July 2024. Next order.
The Zambia Qualifications Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2024, second reading.
The Honorable Acting Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Acting Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you most sincerely for giving me this honor to deliver my statement before this august House on the second reading of the Zambia Qualification Authority Amendment Bill number 7 of 2024. Madam Speaker, the Zambia Qualification Authority is a regulatory body under the Ministry of Education. It is responsible for developing and implementing a national qualification framework, registering qualification on the framework, and verifying and evaluating local and foreign qualification. Madam Speaker, the role of the authority in regulating qualification is crucial. It promotes transparency and accountability. It enhances the quality and standards of qualifications in Zambia. The authority was established through an Act of Parliament under the Zambia Qualification Authority Act number 13 of 2011. In compliance with its mandate, the authority developed and is currently implementing a Zambian national qualification framework which integrates 3 qualification sub-frameworks, namely 1, general and further education and training, 2, trades and occupation, and
3, higher education. Given the above, the Zambia Qualification Framework assigns appropriate qualification to the national framework using level descriptors. The level descriptors outline the knowledge, skill, and competences that holders of a qualification must possess at each level. Madam Speaker, the Zambia Qualification Authority Act of 2011 has continuously faced challenges in terms of implementation and enforcement. These include 1. Potential conflict of interest arising from board members representing regulated institutions such as universities and professional bodies. 2. Perceived overlapping roles with appropriate authorities such as the Higher Education Authority, TEVETA, and the Education Council of Zambia. 3. The absence of concise enforcement provision to ensure compliance by appropriate authorities with the regulatory mandate of the Zambia Qualification Authority. And 4. Standard operative provisions omitted in the 2011 Act, such as general provisions on registers, appeals, offences, and penalties, savings, and schedules, as well as inspection. Madam Speaker, as a result of these inadequacies and overlaps in the implementation of the 2011 Act, a series of extensive stakeholder consultations were undertaken. The review process was highly consultative, taking all key stakeholders on board, including the honorable members of Parliament. The purpose was to ensure that these overlaps are streamlined and that the authority is able to enforce the provisions of its mandate effectively and efficiently. Madam Speaker, given the above, the bill seeks to create an enabling and conducive environment for all players by addressing these challenges through the following objectives. A. Continue the existence of the Zambia Qualification Authority. B. Provide for the development and implementation of the National Qualification Framework. C. Provide for the registration of qualification. D. Provide for verification and evaluation of qualification. E. Constitute the board of the authority and redefine its function. F. Repeal and replace the 2011 Act. And G. Provide for all other matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. Madam Speaker, the Zambia Qualification Authority Bill 2024, by meeting these objectives, will promote quality in education, training, employment for all Zambians, and inspire a sense of national pride. Through the development and implementation of an international comparable national qualification framework, seeks to align these functions of the authority with international best practice. This alignment provides a solid foundation for our future. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to indicate that enhancing the legal framework for the Zambia Qualification Authority is essential for promoting quality education, ensuring the recognition and comparability of qualification, supporting national development goals. The role of the authority in regulating qualification will promote transparency and accountability, ensure that the quality and standards of qualifications in Zambia are internationally competitive. It is on these grounds, Madam Speaker, that I urge all members of Parliament to support this non-controversial bill. Your support is crucial for the future of education in Zambia. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The chairperson of the Committee on Education, Science and Technology, the Honorable Member for Kalomo Central.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with its terms of reference set out in Standing Orders 209C and 210J of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2024, the Committee on Education, Science and Technology was tasked to scrutinize the Zambia Qualifications Authority Bill number 7 of 2024 for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, referred to it by the House on Thursday, 7th March 2024. In carrying out this important task, the committee interacted with various stakeholders who provided both written and oral submissions. As the honorable members may be aware, the bill intends to, among other things, regulate and ensure the efficient functioning of the Zambia Qualifications Authority Board in all its operations. Further, the enactment of the Act will streamline the board's operations, align them to the emerging political, social, cultural, and economic issues affecting the efficient and credible management of qualifications in Zambia. Madam Speaker, I will state from the onset that all stakeholders who appeared before the committee supported the bill, although they expressed some concerns on some clauses of the bill. In this regard, Madam, allow me to highlight only two pertinent issues that came out during the committee's deliberations. Madam Speaker, the first matter of concern relates to Clause 29, which prohibits the employment, appointment, or enrollment of a person in a program of study at a higher education institution or an institution registered under the Technical Education, Vocational Entrepreneurship Training Act No. 13 of 1998, without the verification of that person's qualifications, specifically to a person employed or enrolled in a state organ or state institution and not the private sector. The law and recommend that Clause 29 should apply to everyone, including those in the private sector. Madam Speaker, another issue of concern to the committee is with regards to the Clause 16, number 1, which provides for the board to appoint a Director General without the approval of the Minister. The committee is of the view that the appointment of the Director General should be on such terms and conditions that the board determines with the approval of the Minister. This will bring the Act in line with other acts and ensure that there is oversight on the board. Madam, the Zambia Qualifications Authority Bill is non-controversial and is aimed at ensuring that the country has well-qualified human resources that are required to spur national development. In this regard, I urge this Honourable House to support the bill. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, allow me to place on record the gratitude of the committee to all stakeholders who tendered both written and oral submissions. The committee also wishes to thank you, Madam Speaker, for your guidance and the clerk of the National Assembly and staff for their support services rendered to it throughout its deliberation. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Member for Kafue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thought I would just rise to support briefly this indeed non-controversial bill, the Zambia Qualifications Authority Bill. We've heard from the Minister what the Act, once put in place, is meant to cure, the aspect of provision of quality education, which cannot be overemphasized. The main issue, rather the main aspect of this particular act really is about harmonizing the different qualifications acquired from different areas, so that if I'm in America, I've attended training there, somewhere within the Zambian framework, it should be made easy for me to identify, from the framework where one fits in, so that we know that a diploma in America is equivalent to a particular qualification in our Zambian context. So there is nothing controversial about that, apart from, just trying to harmonize the situation so that we are not at sea as to what, a certificate elsewhere means in our Zambian context. So I would like to support this progressive bill. And indeed, the observation made by the committee about the need for the minister to approve the appointment of the Director General, this is standard practice for most of these quasi-government institutions. So equally, that shouldn't be a problem. Those are my few words, Madam Speaker, in supporting this bill. I thank you.
Any further debate? I see none. The Honorable Minister of Education, winding up debate.
Madam Speaker, this is indeed a non-controversial bill which just aims to enhance the quality of education and harmonize qualifications and indeed secure alignment. I wish to thank the mover and the seconder of the motion for their input. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
I put the question. I remind again that it's time to vote. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Zambia Qualifications Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2024.
Committee stage to be taken when?
Madam Speaker, Friday, 26th July. I thank you.
Thank you. Committee stage to be taken on Friday, 26th July 2024. Next order.
The Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2024, committee stage.
The House will now resolve into committee.
The Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2024. Clause 1, short title. Any debate, any objection? Clause 1 is agreed to. Clause 2, amendment of section 4. Any debate, any objection? Clause 2 is agreed to. Long title. Any debate, any objection? Long title is agreed to. The bill will be reported to the House as having passed through the committee stage without amendment. Madam Speaker, I have to report to the House that the Committee of the whole House has gone through the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education, Bill number 4 of 2024 without amendment.
Day for third reading.
Tomorrow, Madam Speaker.
Third reading of the bill to be taken tomorrow, 24th July 2024. Next order.
The Lands Tribunal Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2024, third reading.
The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read the third time.
The question is that the bill be now read the third time. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. Let the bill be read the third time.
The Lands Tribunal Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2024.
Next order.
Report of the Public Accounts Committee, motion of 19th July, resumption of debate.
When business was interrupted on Friday, 19th July 2024, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Member for Bwana Mkubwa that this House adopts the report of the Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Auditor General on the accounts of the Republic for the financial year ended 31st December 2022 for the third session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 18th July 2024, and the Honorable Member for Zambezi East had just finished debating. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Chimwemwe. I will just take one from each side and then we close because there was sufficient debate on this matter earlier on. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I won't take time. I'll be very brief. I want to look at the domestic revenue mobilization, which was in your report, Madam Speaker. It did show that in 2022, it was 19.6% and it rose to 21.8%. And I'm sure, Madam Speaker, ZRA told the ministry that they'd actually done well because they had mobilized the revenue from our local resources. Madam Speaker, but it's a sad story because you will agree with me that some of this money that ZRA claims to have mobilized through our local resources is the money that they garnished from SMEs, Madam Speaker, that were dealing with Mopani and KCM. Madam Speaker, these SMEs, Madam Speaker, it's not their fault that they could not pay their tax obligation simply because, Madam Speaker, Mopani and KCM were not operating. Madam Speaker, I thought, and all the people in the government board are complaining, that the Minister of Finance should have extended the amnesty that was given to everybody else that came to an end last year in June 2023. But Speaker, most of these companies now have actually shut down. But Speaker, it is a sad story because you will agree with me that the government has actually set up a ministry for the small-scale industries. But Speaker, this ministry is there to nurture them, provide avenue for them. That's why we even have, Madam Speaker, what is called as a government guarantee scheme. But Speaker, this scheme is there to allow them to actually get some capital from the banks and not worry about having any collateral because the government is doing that for them. But Speaker, then if the government on one hand is actually providing an avenue to help these small-scale industries. And on the other hand, Madam Speaker, ZRA comes in and starts garnishing their businesses, Madam Speaker. This is really bringing us back. Madam Speaker, you agree with me that in certain developed countries, SMEs, Madam Speaker, contribute as much as 70% of job creation. As much as Madam Speaker, they create as much as 70% of job creation, as well as they get into the export market. Madam Speaker, in your same report, if you look at the income that we got from exports, it was low. And the reason your committee, Madam Speaker, highlighted was the copper prices were low and the production levels were low. Madam Speaker, we cannot always depend on copper mining. That's why, Madam Speaker, we need to grow this industry. Madam Speaker, we cannot kill an industry that has just started and it hasn't even gone anywhere. Madam Speaker, ZRA has gone further and introduced what they call a smart invoice. Madam Speaker, this invoice is 100% online. Madam Speaker, we cannot have such a situation in a third world country like Zambia. Madam Speaker, half the time our internet is down. And Madam Speaker, the only way this invoice can be generated is when you're online. Madam Speaker, these SMEs, some of them have special contracts with the mines for critical items. Critical items, Madam Speaker, delivery period or lead time, Madam Speaker, is only 2 days, 48 hours. And these small-scale industries, Madam Speaker, are grouped in tens. So they're grouped according to their pricing structure. The lower one, Madam Speaker, becomes the first one. The higher one becomes the 10th one. What happens, Madam Speaker, if the first one is unable to provide or supply the goods within the 48 hours, the order, Madam Speaker, is given to the next one. And the difference between the next and the first will be borne by the first contractor. Madam Speaker, this is what is happening now. The smart invoice is not working. This smart invoice, Madam Speaker, should have been an online situation where you just generate it, but then you can still work on it offline and be able to print an invoice and supply to the mines, Madam Speaker, rather than have to wait until you're back online. ZESCO, Madam Speaker, is letting us down. We don't have electricity. Our internet, Madam Speaker, is 100% intermittent. Madam Speaker, not only that, ZRA is also going to kill another smaller section of industry. Madam Speaker, these are the clearing agents. Madam Speaker, ZRA now expects every company to identify and identify an agent that to be working with. And that agent, Madam Speaker, should be on the portal. Madam Speaker, no big business will actually, not even the small business, Madam Speaker, will engage any small agent, simply because, Madam Speaker, an agent could be a one-man show. So in case he's under the weather and he's not there and your goods are urgently required, Madam Speaker, you may not get your goods cleared in time. As a result, we are actually encouraging large companies like Hill and Delebin and the like that now will have all the business from all the Zambians. What are we doing, Madam Speaker? This is also killing our SMEs. Madam Speaker, having said those few words, Madam Speaker, I rest my case. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Since there is no indication on my right, I will allow one independent and one more member of PF. So the Honorable Member for Lumez, or the Honorable Member for Lumez and the Honorable Member for Matero, you've just walked in the House. So even in terms of debate, will you be able to follow the debate? Honorable Member for Lumez, there's agriculture has also just walked in.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, Madam Speaker, I walked in. I was in Mumbwa. I've just come in, but I have been in the House during the time of debate, and I think it is important that government puts certain things in order which were being totally misaligned. For example, Madam Speaker, on the 29th of February...
I don't know, Honorable Minister, are you raising a point of order or you are responding?
Madam Speaker, I am debating. Yes.
Debating?
I'm debating. Sorry? I'm allowed to...
The Honorable Minister, you can debate later so that you address the other issues that will be coming from.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker. And taking advantage of the presence of the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, let me speak to agriculture first, because it does affect the kind people of Lumezi. Madam Speaker, on page 46, your committee talks of failure to monitor import and exports. Madam Speaker, in this digital world, you have a ministry 60 years after independence, deeply involved year in, year out with unauthorized payments, and then your committee is saying, is telling the controlling officers to recover the monies that were paid to undelivery goods that were not delivered. Example given is on the copper belt. Madam Speaker, there are three ministries that we should always try to protect, because not only they protect the interest of the President, but the citizens. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Agriculture, Health and Energy, we are all affected by the decisions that these three ministries attend to. Madam Speaker, I will be doing a disservice to the people of Lumezi and the Zambians at large if I do not speak to corruption that is affecting these three ministries. If you go to the Ministry of Health, for example, Madam Speaker, your report is telling us that on page 84 of your report, Madam Speaker, failure to utilize medical equipment. Madam Speaker, how do you fail to utilize medical equipment that you have in possession, spent huge sums of taxpayers' money, and then here they are failing to utilize that medical equipment? Just how, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, as we provide oversight on the privileged colleagues in the executive, they should equally bear in mind that they are privileged, they are knowing very well that they can be substituted with capable, competent men and women from this very house. Madam Speaker, for the last few days, the President has been put in harm's way, being attacked from left, right, and center because of people that are taking advantage of those privileged positions. How, Madam Speaker, can we today say failure to utilize medical equipment, and the person who causes that is given a benefit of doubt, taken to another sensitive department, when we know very well that...
The Honorable Member for Lumezi, you know the rules are very clear. We do not debate ourselves. The report is also specific. Address yourself to the specifics. And actually today I wanted to indicate that we are not a complaints commission. We are a parliament. We debate. If there is any issue that is of concern to us, let's send it to the committee. We work through committees. Those committees have got a lot of power to summon witnesses to come and inquire in any matter that is of interest to them. If an honorable member comes to the floor of this house and opens a debate, first of all, according to our standing orders, they must be factual. Secondly, they must be verifiable. So as we debate and make those complaints, please let's make sure that we remain factual and the information should be verifiable. The purpose why we are here is to provide alternative solutions to the government in power, not to be a complaints commission. So if we are guided that way, we'll be able to achieve more. May the honorable member continue.
Madam Speaker, I adopt your guidance to provide solutions. Solution, Madam Speaker, entails we in this house to reach out to the executive. If people are not doing their job after being given that task by the Republican President, they should be put on the bench. The 156 members in this house, Madam Speaker, we all saw our allegiance to the Republican President. We shall not accept
a crop of few individuals, Madam Speaker, to sell land when God has stopped creating land. Madam Speaker, last year there was an element of fertilizer, single sourcing fertilizer, delayed delivery of farming inputs. Today, the president in Mumbwa was shocked that certain traditional leaders are receiving fertilizer late. Madam Speaker, maybe it's because we don't speak to these issues, telling our friends in the executive. They do not listen. So, providing solutions, Madam Speaker. One of them is that those that are failing to perform should be substituted. And we bring in people that will meet the aspirations of the head of state and not their individual capacities. Madam Speaker, you can't, we saw our allegiance to the president, then here today, the president is being embarrassed by a few individuals that can afford to divert containers of medicine. And we are all quiet. Our allegiance is to him, Madam Speaker. Unfortunately.
Order, Honorable Member. Honorable Member for Lumez, you have been guided. Do you have any information that you can lay on the table of the House showing that anybody diverted containers? Do you have any evidence, Honorable Member?
Sorry, Madam Speaker. I withdraw that someone diverted containers of medicine in Makeni.
Yes, that is withdrawn because there are still investigations. Nobody knows who did what. There are still investigations. So let's not jeopardize those investigations. The Honorable Member may continue as guided.
So, Madam Speaker, not to exhaust all the 8 minutes, this report comes here every year, but it's something that our colleagues in the executive should pay particular attention to. Just the composition of this committee, Madam Speaker, shows that they did the right thing on behalf of your office and the people of Zambia. It would not do us any good, or harm rather, if they concede that they've let down the President on agriculture, energy, and health. We hope the new players that we have now will do the right thing. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Then we can go to the right. The Honorable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise in support of the report, but at the same time, Madam Speaker, to put record straight, because when we speak here, Madam Speaker, the world hears. And if we do not correct, the world will believe that what has been said is correct. Madam Speaker, on the 29th of February 2024, the President declared an emergency because of the drought that we had. As a consequence of that, Madam Speaker, there was a call to the world that those who are able to assist should assist. Madam Speaker, it was shocking that one of the speakers from the opposition actually stood to demean the country, one of the countries that supported us. And that, Madam Speaker, does not sit well in international relations. And I think it is important that this record is put straight. The country was mentioned. We had just received 20,000 bags of maize, 50 kg maize from Rwanda. And it was wrong for this House, Madam Speaker, one of the members, to start demeaning Rwanda as if Rwanda is not able to produce and feed itself. That should not have been so. And Madam Speaker, unfortunately, it seems to continue, even today, that people can come here and give wrong information. The government will not sit idle and not respond to things like that. Zambia, Madam Speaker, last year supported Mozambique, supported Malawi. Well, how would it have been if members of parliament in that country would be debasing the status of Zambia? Actually, it is not simply right. And I think we are always taught etiquette when we come here. I think people should pay attention. And Madam Speaker, when senior members seem to lose their etiquette and start demeaning other countries, it is our responsibility to do what I'm doing, to stand and tell you that that is wrong and you're totally out of order. Madam Speaker, I will continue. There has been continuous lies that Zambia exported maize to the Congo. Madam Speaker, yes, we exported meal to the Congo. We did not, as a country, export maize to the Congo. Private individuals bought maize and were free to take maize where they wanted it to go. Why should the House be misleading itself due to some few colleagues who are hell-bent on misleading the country? That will not happen, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to move on. When we are talking about drought, let us not, Madam Speaker, mix it with the fact that inputs were delayed into delivery. Madam Speaker, that is not correct. The southern province, most parts of the country, received inputs on time, Madam Speaker. And, Madam Speaker, it is wrong for a member to stand and
Order, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member Fonkana, I'm running out of time. I'm not taking any points of orders. At this time, the Honorable Minister is responding.
Thank you.
Let's wind up. Let's wind up the debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister is responding.
I will be very quick. It is wrong for members of Parliament to stand here and demean people who are in areas which have been severely affected by drought, the way the debate went on the southern province. People should go to these provinces and see the extent of the drought and how people have been affected, instead of coming here and misleading the world. Madam Speaker, there was an issue that we did not supply fertilizer. Wrong. The fertilizer, Madam Speaker, 17,500 metric tons, which was not supplied, was by the opposition. The PF did that. And we know the company, it is in the auditor's report. You should learn to tell the truth. I'm responding to the lies that you're giving. Yes, and relating it to the report. Which I have. Madam Speaker, we should not allow people to lie here.
Order. Honorable members, you were given time to debate. You debated. The Honorable Minister is also responding. But Honorable Minister, as we respond, please let's control the tone so that we can deliver our message. And the Honorable members on the left will be able to understand. May the Honorable Minister continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will try very hard to lower my pitch. Madam Speaker, the party that was in power, the PF, Madam Speaker, did not deliver 17,500 metric tons of fertilizer. Why should that be transposed onto a party, the UPND, which delivered all the fertilizer that it had contracted? Madam Speaker, the current government actually expanded the number of suppliers to more than 10, other than a party which kept on giving contracts to the same suppliers over and over again, and effective giving about 4 major suppliers to supply. We came and we took away that corruption, Madam Speaker, and started giving fertilizer to more companies, including, Madam Speaker, the use of positive discrimination. Madam Speaker, the previous government never gave NCZ, our own company, to supply fertilizer. But when we came in, NCZ is now on board. When we came in, we quickly took out all the impediments that the previous government was putting on United Capital Fertilizer. We gave them the licenses so that they can produce, so that we stop importing fertilizer. Madam Speaker, here is a government which by next year we will not even import 1 bag of fertilizer from outside as government, because we are going to go totally 100% e-voucher. There will be no issues of corruption. Madam Speaker, our colleagues kept on yelling, corruption, corruption. Who actually is corrupt? We who have delivered all the fertilizer, or them who didn't deliver the fertilizer? Madam Speaker, in the interest of time, I will allow the responsible minister to wind up debate so that this issue does not continue. But I think the world has known the truth. The world has known who actually didn't deliver fertilizer. Ask me, Madam Speaker, PF. I thank you.
I was sure we are going to end on a good note. The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the Public Accounts Committee for the report that they have rendered to this House. Madam Speaker, I've taken note of the points that the committee have made, and I want to congratulate them for those points. The Ministry of Finance, the Treasury, will endeavor to respond positively to all the various recommendations that have been made. Madam Speaker, it's a pity that I'm not able to respond to the debate that was running through because I was not here. Otherwise, I would have taken time to respond to each of the issues raised point by point. But indeed, I just want to support my neighbor here because when we came in 2021, we're told all the fertilizer has been delivered, and there was pressure on the president. Can you now launch the fertilizer distribution scheme? Then whistleblower said, no. Actually, these people who are pushing you to distribute fertilizer, they are pushing you because they did not deliver all the fertilizer. Once you push the fertilizer through, then you have no way of checking whether they under-delivered or they delivered in full. And indeed, Madam Speaker, the President did not rush to launch the distribution of fertilizer. Instead, an audit was done, and it was discovered that the fertilizer that was said to have been distributed in full was actually not distributed in full. All the money was paid in full. All the money was paid in full, but I think the under-deliveries were $17 million?
21.
$21 million worth of fertilizer was never delivered, which was said was delivered. So, Madam Speaker, these are the realities that were on the ground. Madam Speaker, I also want to say that since there were aspects of food being said, we have been hearing stories, people saying, this government exported maize. This government exported maize. That's why there's hunger. Madam Speaker, I think the minister has clarified that very well, that Zambia did not export maize. It exported meal. And at the time, Madam Speaker, we came in 2023 with surplus maize. We came in 2023 with surplus maize. And the surplus that was there is the one that was decided to be exported. And this is nothing strange, Madam Speaker, because if you look at the Lusaka Times of 2015, 7th May 2016, here is a report, Madam Speaker, 2016. Zambia to export 700,000 tons of maize to the region. But people today want to talk as if exporting maize is something strange, when they did export themselves, as reported in this
article that I'm citing now. 700,000 tons of maize exported. And shortly after that, Madam Speaker, we all remember the hunger that was there. The price of mealie meal went up to 200 kwacha per bag in this country. Today, people want to mislead others into thinking that exporting maize is a bad thing. Well, when you are convinced that you have a surplus, what do? You export. It's just unfortunate that after 2023, there is another drought that came. That's how we find ourselves in this situation. So, Madam Speaker, I thought I should just clarify some of these points that come in the audit report. Otherwise, I want to thank the chairman and the committee for their submissions. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Bwana Mukubwa, winding up debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Bwana Mkubwa, Madam Speaker. The big man. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me
There
take
is no
this.
boy in Mbunda. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me take this opportunity to thank all my colleagues who've adequately debated to this very, very important report, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me also thank the honorable ministers who've responded to some of the issues which arose due to the report. Madam Speaker, your report has highlighted a lot of issues, a lot of recommendations which we, Madam Speaker, ought that executive can look at to ensure that we move on the right trajectory. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. I put the question. The question is that this House adopts the report of the Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Auditor General on the accounts of the Republic for the financial year ended 31st December 2022 for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 18th July 2024. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. The acting leader of government business adjournment.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn.
The question is that the House do now adjourn. Any debate? Any objection? The question is agreed to. The House? Is now adjourned.
Well, thank you so much for being with us on Parliament Television. The House has adjourned to tomorrow at 14:30. Before we leave, a recap of what has been considered on the floor of the House and business resumed at 14:30. There were announcements that were made by
Assembly of Zambia warmly welcomed the visitors to the National Assembly.
The other announcement that Madam Speaker made was to inform the House that she had received communication to the effect that in the absence of our honored Vice President, who is attending to other government business, the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security Honorable Jacob Jack Mwembu, State Council MP, has been appointed acting leader of government business in the House from today, 23rd July 2024, until further notice.
And the third announcement that Madam Speaker made is where she informed the House that the elective annual general meeting for the Interparliamentary Union, IPU Zambia National Group, that was slated for Wednesday, 24th July 2024 at 10:30 hours, has been postponed to Monday, 29th July 2024 at 10 hours in the Auditorium, Parliament Buildings. Madam Speaker urged honourable members to observe time and to participate effectively in the AGM.
After those three announcements, the House did proceed to consider two questions for oral answer under Standing Order 80, and the first one came from Mr. Chinga Miyutu, Kalabo Central Member of Parliament, and his question was directed to the Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise Development. It was question 391. The member wanted to find out how many marketeers countrywide benefited from the marketeer boost-up loans under the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission as of December 2023. And according to the Minister's response in A, the Minister did say that the loan product called CEEC Marketeers Booster Loan is a micro-credit loan targeting marketeers in Zambia with a viable business. The Commission offers this product interest-free and disbursed between 500 to 5,000 as loans to marketeers. The loan tenure is up to 6 months. And the B part of the question, the member wanted to find out which criteria are used to determine the eligibility of applicants. And according to the Minister's response in B, did say that an evaluation criterion is used to determine eligibility of the applicants. This criterion mainly involves selection of marketeers operating in designated marketplace and recognized by the market leadership. Part C of the question, the member wanted to find out what challenges, if any, CEEC encounters in disbursing these funds. And according to the Minister, one of the challenges that was highlighted was that the Commission has encountered the following challenges. The first one that was found to be marketeer migration, meaning marketeers moving from market to market depending on the reason or other factors. The other one was some funded clients were found to change their contact numbers, posing a challenge to reach them. So those are some of the responses that came from the Minister in question 391.
And question 392 did come from Mr. Mulenga Fuve, who is Chilubi Member of Parliament, and he did ask the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development in A, why the construction of hospitals in the following wards in Chilubi Parliamentary Constituency has stalled. Katamba and Muchinshi Mpasha. The Minister did respond that actually construction of the phase 1 and 2 for these hospitals was completed in January 2019. In B, when the works will resume, the Minister did state that once funds are secured. And in C, when the projects will be completed, the Minister did respond that once works commence. And in D, what the cost of the outstanding works on the project is, the Minister did respond that this can only be known once works are quantified and costed. So that's the response that the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development gave to the question that came from Chilubi Member of Parliament.
After those two questions for oral answer, the House did proceed to consider a report. And this report was presented by Sesheke Member of Parliament, Mr. Romeo Kangombe, who is the chairperson of the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism, urging the House to adopt a report of the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism on the International Convention on the Protection and Use of Transboundary Water Courses and International Lakes for the third session of the 13th National Assembly. This document was laid on the table of the House on Friday, 19th July 2024. It was seconded by Mr. Lamek Hamwata, Kemba Member of Parliament. And we did see quite a number of members of Parliament showing interest in debating this report. And when the question was put, the motion was negatived, which means the motion wasn't adopted.
The House then went on to consider the 4 bills that were appearing on today's order paper, and the first bill that was considered at second reading stage is the Minerals Regulation Commission Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2024, and this bill will be considered at committee stage on Tuesday, 30th July 2024.
The Zambia Qualifications Authority Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2024, came up as well at second reading stage, and it passed the second reading stage and committee stage to be taken on Friday, 26th July 2024.
And the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4, was considered at committee stage without amendments. Third reading of this bill will be considered tomorrow, the 24th of July, 2024.
The last bill to be considered among the 4 was the Lands Tribunal Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2024, which came up at third reading stage, and this means that it has completed all the stages and it awaits the presidential assent. So basically those are the 4 bills that were considered today.
And we did see resumption of debate on the motion of 19th July. This is a motion that was moved by Mr. Warren Mwambazi, urging that the House adopts the report of the Auditor General on the accounts of the Republic of the financial year ended 31st December 2022 for the third session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on 18th July 2024, and this report has since been adopted, and so basically, that's the business that the House considered today.
That's the business that we've had today. I'm sure you're looking forward to tomorrow for more parliamentary proceedings. Do remember that we'd have a committee at 08, the station opens at 08 hours, and we do have a committee at 9:30. On behalf of the sign language interpreters that we've had today, that's Chola Kauma and Jason Manda, and indeed not forgetting Tazapiri. My name is Posim Tindovi. Thank you so much for your time, and keep watching Parliament Television until 22 hours.